holding my hand in the darkness, seeing ghosts down the hallway. There's a presence, bedroom shadows, cloaked and haunting me, cold hand touching me, fear overwhelming me, tapping at my window. I can't bear to open my eyes, a breath on my neck, floating apparitions everywhere. Go to sleep with the light on, I wake up paralyzed. Ghostly apparition hovering over me, asking what it wants to know. I'm shaking now, it calls out my name, cloaked and haunting me, cold hand touching me, fear overwhelming me, tapping at my window. I can't bear to open my eyes, a breath on my neck, floating apparitions everywhere. Go to sleep with the light on, I wake up paralyzed.
A bleak December, Edgar's Raven. Nevermore came a rap and a gentle tapping, the ghosts of embers lying on the floor, wishing for tomorrow, my sweet Lenore, nameless there forevermore. The silk and purple curtains drew out my fear like terror I never felt before, brought back to my wonder, who could be at my door? Is it a man or a woman I implore? A darkness there and nothing more. Out like a light that night, a rapping came, tapping at my door. Is this the end? Forevermore. Into the darkness I gazed, a stood fear and doubt, a nightmare it seems, but only a dream. The stillness inside feel a smile growing as I gaze upon its beauty. But the grave it wore, I beckoned thee from the chamber door. Spoke the raven, nevermore. My gaze upon the raven, the word it spoke meant nothing. Even the word was a bore. For this bird named Nevermore.
All right, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner. This is PRT. Welcome and join us in the real reality. This is the real reality. The stuff we talk about happens to real people all the time. And that's what the Monday show is just to kind of, bring people on and let them talk about their experiences and what has happened to them. I don't know. But, I got to say, though, even though I'm wearing this hat, okay, I am not the real Superman. I am just a friend of his. We met at the Daily Planet, right? And just like when I wear this, people are like, "Oh, it's Spider-Man." I'm like, "No, dude. We're just friends. We're just friends." I worked at the Daily Bugle.
I mean, how do we know that? Because we haven't seen you with your glasses on.
That is true. I could be. I mean, I'm strong enough to be around both of them together.
You might look just like him if you wore your glasses.
People are like, "Are you the strongest man in the world?" I'm like, "I don't know. Could be."
Pretty close.
Oh, dude. Okay. Anyway, I'm joking. They're gonna go and clip this. He's saying that he's the strongest man in the universe, and everyone knows that that's the baby Jesus. He's the strongest man in the universe.
Everybody knows it's He-Man.
It's He-Man. Now he has to pretend
He's
like
the master of the universe.
No. They don't like He-Man. They've already called me out on liking G.I. Joe, Transformers, and He-Man because when he was a child, he played with dog turds. The guy that did that said that he played with turds, man, and he used them as Play-Doh, and he built his own figures that were stabbing people and killing people and whatever. And I'm pretty sure he was like that kid on Toy Story that was blowing up all the toys and doing.
Sid.
If he had any kind of toys, that's what he did. So he's got a bone with anybody who grew up normal, and so that's his thing, dude. And so
you played with a different kind of Lincoln Logs.
He's gonna expose the lies that are told by his nieces and nephews or whoever the nephew's talking about. Somebody sent that to me and said it was my nieces and nephews, and I'm like, I watched this. I don't think he said anything about my nephew or nieces, but I was like, what in the hell is this guy babbling about? But hey, stay tuned though. The show is gonna expose me for the villain that I am. It's going to happen, folks. You got to go check it out, man, and go watch it. Go watch it and come back and report this absolute dog turd that he's played with before that he has on the show. Thank you for those donations. I'm sure that's a sty in his eye right there. Look at that, Mike. I know you're mad. We get it. You're very mad. Biden didn't win, okay? Because you probably weren't paying attention, but they had another person that they tried to stick in there and it didn't work out. But so maybe they're going to take your benefits. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I know that somebody very close to you is with somebody that was, in charge up there of the tribal thing. That's why you're getting away with what you're getting away with. But you didn't know that. I do. Mm-hmm. Keep running around talking about conspiracies while you commit conspiracy after conspiracy. It's all going to blow up in your face. It's a very bad thing to be like these people, folks. I'm telling you, turn over to a reprobate mind and just go crazy. If they spent 1 ounce on repairing their lives or doing their show as much as they do stalking me and my nephews and my wife, And by extension, I guess Maddie and anybody else attached to the show, they're just going crazy.
Pretty much all their problems would go away.
Yeah. Just do your show. You know, so many times in life, and this is not about them, this is about people. But if you were to stop and look at a person and they're just like, I just can't get it right in my life. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, while they're, you know, eating ultra processed food and, you know, I just can't lose weight. I don't know. Or somebody who says I can't gain weight, but they don't eat. And I know somebody like that. I know a couple people like that in my life. They're always talking about how they can't gain weight, but they won't eat. Every little thing makes them not eat. And you know who you are. So if you're going to do that, you're going to have problems. You know, it's like, it's a very simple formula. Move around more, eat less.
Mm-hmm.
You can lose weight. If you want to gain weight, you can still move around, do what you got to do, but just eat more. But try to stay away from processed foods. Like sugar is bad. Bless you. The refined sugar is horrible. It causes all kinds of problems. Just stay away from it.
There's no use that the human body has for refined sugar, like none whatsoever.
No,
There's no benefits to it. So quit eating it. It's time to be a big boy and a big girl and stop eating and drinking sugar.
They'll go to this alternatives. You know, like these sweeteners that are worse.
Oh, saccharin and dextrose,
bad.
Splenda.
Debbie Cothra, awesome person, says, "Receive my tumbler, looks cooler in person. Thank you. My adult children have been eyeing it. Tracker on it.
Better put the smack down on them if they try to take it from you."
Oh, look at Jason Broussard says, "Sorry, Okie Icky Roach, not sorry." Oh, you know, that burns him. That burns him bad. Like all the stalking he's done. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that for the donation. And who else we got up here? Paula King. Thank you, Paula. Paula's such a good person too. Jason Broussard's awesome. Andres, thank you, Andres Carrizales. Everybody who helps out with the show, man. It's been a blessing to be able to do the show with you guys, man. And I was not feeling good today. Dude, I drank a protein shake yesterday. I'm not even, y'all probably saw me drinking it on the show. And my stomach, I went to the gym after the show. And dude, oh my gosh, I felt like I had and I didn't have to do the patrol last night, which was awesome. So I had somebody doing it for us, and it was Maddie was doing it, and thank you, Maddie, for that. But it was, dude, I was working out, and there's a guy that he comes in late at night, and I always see him, you know, that big dude, the black dude that's always wearing the cool shirt.
Oh, the anime shirt.
So he was coming in, and I was leaving, and I was kind of sitting there, and he was like, "What's wrong, dog?" And I said, "Dude, I think I swallowed a brick." No bull crap. Like he immediately goes, "Were you at the place? Whatever, did you get I said, yes. I go, "How did you just randomly guess?" He goes, "No, man, because there's only a couple places you would go." He goes, "And I ate one the other day, you know, because it's like those shakes are so thick, you know." He goes, "And man, my stomach was jacked up for a day." I told him, I said, "Oh, I hope mine's not." And then today I was just like, "Oh man. Whew, man, my stomach, man. It just felt like I swallowed like metal, like some metal bars, you know." I'm like, "The Nazis are coming. We got to eat our gold." And we just, you know, you start eating the gold or whatever it is, diamonds, whatever.
Yeah.
It was horrible, and I felt terrible. Thank you, Lawrence, for that. We appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that. It couldn't come at a better time, man. We are so. We're going to have to get some pets neutered.
Yeah.
We got cats. These are not, I don't know how we're going to do it, but you can't just let cats run around and make a colony. We've learned that. Look at my arm over here. Like cat. And then they want to be nice. So they sent their emissary to talk to me. He comes up and he's like,
"Oh, the Cat King.
I want to apologize on behalf of the cat colony." And I'm like, I was like, you guys were out of line, but your dog trespassed. And then he goes, "Come here. He wanted me to come toward him. You know, of course, I'm naive when it comes to animals. I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "I want to slap your face." I'm like, "Ow, you son of a beat." He goes, hey, runs off. "We're not sorry." And he gives me the little finger. And I'm like, "How could you be so cruel?" And then I just hear all this meowing. And it's like Village of the Damned, but with cats. And I'm standing there and I'm just like, Oh my gosh! And this
You
big,
see a bunch of little yellow eyes.
oh dude, it's horrible. Little gray. They're all gray. You
Yeah.
notice that they're all gray. Like when he jumps up on the deck out at the ranch and he tells me, he's like, "You want redemption?" And I'm like, "No, not really. I'm good."
Not from a cat. I mean,
He's like, "You must kill the people you're with to purify yourself." I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I can do that." So start with Anthony. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have you and Nelly and everybody lay down with ketchup on your mouths, and then I'm gonna send it to them, and we'll see if that works.
mhm.
He said the attacks would stop, and they would stop laying on my truck. So go out there, and there's little paw prints all over it. Yeah, Fiddles is the leader. Well, I think Fiddles is the leader. I think Shadow and Fiddles are kind of like co-leaders, but I think Shadows is too laid back. That's his brother. So I think Fiddles is the one that's kind of in charge. I saw him running with a knife in his mouth the other day, and I was like, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I'm going to take care of business." He's like, "Mind your business." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid. Well, yeah, I am. I'm afraid of them. I'm not gonna lie. They do scare me. But you know, you got to stay strapped. You got them cats.
Mhm. Stay strapped with the water bottles. Spray them.
I was gonna say a water gun.
Yeah.
Because they are brutal animals, dude, and they are very efficient killers. You know what is funny about house cats? I looked this up, man.
They're the most efficient hunters on
They
Earth.
are the most efficient hunters on Earth with 80% success. Who the hell has 80%? The lions over there are going like, what? We got like 34%. What? So we downsize, we get better? But when I was talking to my lion friend the other day, and I told him, I said, no. I said, look, man, don't take those statistics to heart. I said, you're going after big prey. They're counting like bugs. Okay. They're eating bugs. And then my lion friend goes, well, I heard that they're trying to make y'all do that too. I said, yes, they are. They're going to try and make us eat bugs. And he goes, well, I heard you guys were once giants. I said, yeah, that's true. We were once giants. Little known fact, people don't know that we were all giants at one time. And now we're just these little. So I had to talk with somebody the other day. This is interesting. This is a true story. And I was arguing with somebody on Facebook, and they're going like, really? Wow, that never happens. Yeah, no, it does. And I was arguing with this clown in a group. And what does he tell me? He tells me that this couldn't be the Kali Yuga because humans are going to be the size of dwarves and only live like short lives. And I said, yes, we are. Yes, compared to our ancestors, like here is our ancestor, you know, here's us. We're like the size of this is a more like this is us right here. See, that's me.
In the Old Testament, the people lived for like what 130, 140 years or some crazy.
Oh no! It's 1,000 years.
Well, how old was Moses when he died? I thought he was like over 100.
I don't know, but that would be the Kali Yuga. He would be in the time of the Kali Yuga.
Yeah,
but even then they lived longer. But like Noah. I mean, a lot of his people, his grandfather, Methuselah. And, you know, of course, Enoch was, I think, Methuselah's grandfather. So you go back, and you end up with these people that lived to be 1,000 years. They tapped out at about 1,000. But the age before that, people tapped out at 10,000. The age before that, people tapped out at 100,000. And if you take a look at these statues around the world, I say statues, they call them like rocks.
Yeah,
they're all over the world, man. And they look like giants or like giant animals. Like there's an island that looks like a giant elephant. I dare say that's probably what it is. It was a giant elephant. And you know, now it's just like, I don't know, man. You know.
Oh, there we go. Chat says Noah lived 997 years. Another one says 969 years.
Yeah, it was a long time. And Jason Broussard says several in Genesis, 900s. Yeah. So you have these people that lived a long, long time. And then, you know, and now with these giants, they found statues all over the world that are, well, they say they're not statues. They say they're rocks or formations, you know. I don't think that that's what they are.
Yeah. Well, there's these perfectly flat plateaus that look like giant tree trunks.
Well, what about the place in Malaysia? Is it Malaysia where they have the snake?
Oh, yeah,
There's a
yeah.
giant snake. We already got somebody in here. Somebody messaged Richards and asked him where he's at, what he's doing. Did the Canadian government finally get him for not being like them? What's going on, man? Harping Blues?
What's up, Josh? How you guys doing? PRT, paratroopers out there. Y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. What it do, man? What you got going
Hey,
on?
nothing to it, man. Nothing to it. You know, I messaged you a couple weeks ago. I do HVAC, and I've been having some high strangeness going on at these construction sites lately, man. I know you can attest to that doing security, but yeah, dude, it's getting weird, man. I've hit like 3 sites that, you know, when you can feel things and that kind of thing, you know when it's there. But yeah, man, I wanted to come on and share a little bit of that, and overall just chop it up with you. I got a couple things I wanted to run by you.
Yeah, Randy says Tony Romo slacking tonight. He does. Richards does look like Tony Romo.
Yeah.
One of my friends that I grew up with looks like Warren Sapp. And he used to hate Warren Sapp because he didn't like looking like him. His name was Elmas. I said, Elmas, dude, you look like Warren Sapp. There's nothing you can do about it. Because I can't stand that dude. I was like, why? Because he's successful, but it was like it's in your genes, though. You could do the same thing. But I don't get that. People tell me I look like certain people, and I'm like, well, good. That person must be very handsome. So what you got going on, man? Harp, you gonna give us the skinny on what's happening here?
Yeah, man. Let me backtrack to about November. I was working out at a so I'm up here in Ohio, man, and I was working out at a job site. It's like an insurance company. Always weird stuff at insurance companies and these IT companies. Anytime we go in and do redo duct work and whatnot, it's weird, man. So anyway, this place was strange. Gives you culty vibes. All the people that work there. Nonetheless, man, there was 2 buildings that we worked in. We kept our storage stuff, all of our duct work, everybody, all the trays, kept their stuff down in the basement, and they kept them in the second building on the top floor. Second building on the top floor, man, as soon as you get off the elevator. So it was set up that you get off the elevator and you walk right into the storage area on the top floor. As soon as you get up there, man, you can it was palpable. I mean, it was like a wall of, I don't know how to explain it. When you can feel things, you can feel things. But it was like a wall that hit you. Felt instantly like eyes are on you. As you get up there, there's tons of sounds and just almost like a young woman's voice kind of coming through, but not saying anything that you can really make out, nothing audible, you know. So we work on a crew, again, HVAC company. I got 3 or 4 other guys that go up in the area, and without trying to lead them, you know, I just asked them, you know, what do you feel up here? And they just gave me this look. None of these guys are into paranormal. I mean, I've talked to them about stuff like this before. I'm the weird guy at the company who talks about this stuff. I don't care. I get tons of stories talking about it. Often in private, though, people are embarrassed to say it in front of other people. Yeah, man. So these other guys felt it. So we're here for about 9 months. So it's kind of nothing major happens. I did, man, I'm a Christian and I believe in Jesus and, you know, all of that. And I ended up doing, so I don't really like to mess with EVPs and doing that kind of thing. And I've never been into ghost hunting for the, you know, fear of, I guess, attachments or whatnot. But I took some EVPs there and didn't hear anything on camera. But when I played it back, I asked, is anybody here? And you can clearly hear a bang, bang. And you kind of get, again, it's a weird muffled sound. So fast forwarding, right? There's security guards who work here. And I thought about you. And I'm like, man, after about 3 or 4 months, you know, you see them every day, get cool with them, whatnot. I'm like, man, I bet you these dudes have stories. So it just so happened as I'm thinking that I'm leaving out, which had to check in, check out, sign in, sign out, security desk. I hear a security officer listen to a paranormal story. It sounded like Cundiff, man, but you know, I'm gonna leave that alone. But anyway, I started talking to her about it. And I was like, yo, are you into this? Are you into ghosts? Are you into paranormal? You know, and she's like, yes, absolutely. Like, oh my goodness, yes, I go on investigations. Up here, we've got the reformatory. So a lot of people go to the reformatory up there in Mansfield or whatnot, having encounters, you know, that kind of thing. But she was telling me that she has been there for 6 years and that she absolutely hates working night shift because that land that this insurance company, now she did her due diligence and did research to figure out what exactly was the reason behind all of these things happening. So she did her due diligence, found out that this was land, it was farmland back in the day, and that there was a little girl who had died like shortly before the farmland got bought by the city of it's in Brown County, Ohio, before the land got bought by the county and whatnot. So we continued talking, man. She told me she was a little more apt to doing the ghost investigations, and she told me that working night shift there during the holidays, this was 3 or 4 years ago, she took flour down on the basement level, which you would hear things on the basement level, but nowhere near to the extent of up on the other building on the very top floor. But she took flour, man, said she got little girl footprint. She took a ball, this is creepy, took a ball and rolled it and said that it got pushed back to her. You could feel eyes there. It was strange. So I talked to 3 or 4 other guards. I think it was 3 other guards, and one of them was kind of not really, you know how people are, man. They dance around the paranormal because they're really scared of it.
They're scared of it.
Yeah, they're scared of it. They're scared of the mental, I don't know, whatever that they'll have to put into understanding that our reality is not what we've been told, right? So all the guards pretty much confirmed it, and they all confirmed that area up there on that floor was just weird. The people there, though, man, when I say they all acted like they were in a cult, they all acted like they had some giant secret that, I don't know, man. Insurance companies are weird. IT companies are weird, dude. And and I get that it's more introverted type people or whatever personality type tends to go into those kind of roles. That's not it, dude. It is weird working in some of these buildings, dude. It's like they're some of the, then I don't know. I can't say they're not human, but they just act and feel very robotic and NPC at these companies. And we do a lot of demo work and refab work in these buildings, and it's always weird.
You know, I did security. There used to be a company called MCI. It was I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but they were the competitor to AT&T.
Okay.
And I remember MCI, Michael Jordan became like their spokesman at one time. And they were a major company. They had a lot of money. And they were remodeling a building that had asbestos in it. And it was as the insurance company that used to own it and run it. And I remember doing security for them. And I walked around that building until I figured out what they were gutting it for. And I was like, oh, crap. Now, this is 30 years ago. So hopefully I don't get mesothelioma.
Right.
But, you know, so here, hold on one second. So we have a troll here. So Amy Peplinski, a.k.a. Ike from Oklahoma. What's going on? It says, I know what he means. I tug my balls real hard. Yeah. And see, and this, I was waiting to see what their next comment was, but they were talking about you telling a story, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. And then they said something earlier about nobody lives 1,000 years. So I wasn't even going to bother with you, but now I'm going to go ahead and out because we know who you are. So, folks, that is the troll. That's one of the people we deal with that has been attacking our show, and that's one of them. So it's part of that little clan of people who do whatever it is that they do. But you're gone, Amy Peplinski, a.k.a. Ike or Ike and Pals. So I decided to take care of that situation there. But, you know, every time these people make a new account, it gets sent to all of our friends so that they can out you. And then they get mad. They say they get banned from other people's channels. Well, you out yourself by saying that because you use those sock accounts and you go to other people's channels. And we have a list of like 20 something friends that we send all of those to, or Anthony and Tony do. And,
dude, the list is got to be like 400 emails by this point. It's ridiculous. It's embarrassing.
Because they keep making new fake accounts, you know, and we know who it is predominantly, and they think that they can be nasty, mean, and bigoted and whatever when they do this. And they think that by calling me that it's going to change the dynamics of whatever. And I'm like, you know, like I was saying yesterday, this guy clipped the thing of me saying, you know, like I was basically saying, he says, I love Hitler. And that was his little whatever because of the 88. Well, what he doesn't understand is I'm a diehard Cowboys fan. I have been since I was a child. My dad instilled that in me. Now, I'm not wearing their gear right now because I ain't gonna lie. I bought a Cowboys hat the other day. I can't help it. I like them a lot. But, you know, but I'm trying not to wear it because I'm mad at Jerry Jones. I don't like E.T. I didn't like the movie when it came out. I don't like him. He's reprising the role, by the way. But no, seriously, like, so my favorite players, Drew Pearson, he was number 88. When I was a kid, everybody liked Tony Dorsett. I like Dorsett, and I like Danny White. I like Roger Staubach, but Drew Pearson was my favorite player. I always wanted to be like a receiver or a tight end. Like, I would always catch the ball, you know, and I only got to play tight end 1 year in high school. And then they were like, oh, you got to go on defense. You're fast and you're strong. And I was like, oh, man. And our offense actually threw the ball quite a bit, you know, for a high school team. We were pretty good. And so I was like, I wanted to play tight end, but they're like, no, you got to play defensive tackle or defensive end. They put me all over the defensive line, and I did really well. I excelled. But my favorite player was Drew Pearson, and then Mike Irvin. And I met Mike Irvin, you know, talked to him in person 3 or 4 times. He's a great guy. I know he did some stuff, but I can't judge. I've done some stuff too, so I'm not judging. And then he was 88. So it was Drew Pearson was 88. Mike Irvin was 88. And then after that, my boy Des Bryant became 88. And then after that, it was CeeDee Lamb was 88. So the Cowboys have a history with that number. And then I found out, you know, that numbers, because I believe numbers make up everything in the universe. I think everything is in a code. 8 plus 8 equals 16. 1 plus 6 equals 7. I'm a 7 life path. So that's where the 88 comes from. Not this whatever the hell he's talking about. So he's opportunistic. He makes videos. He cuts things and tries to make it look like I'm this old school bigot or whatever.
Well, you're from Texas, so you got to be racist, right?
Yeah, of course. And, you know, and the funny thing is, like, you know, even being Hispanic, you know, he's like, oh, well, Hispanic people are racist too. And I'm like, yeah, everybody's prejudiced. Racism is not prejudice.
Yes.
Racism is a systemic thing, and it does exist, and it does really exist. I was watching that movie Sinners, and now I'm going to say this. I'm a person that's on the right, and I'm not a virtue signaler. I'm like, oh, look at me. I'm out here protesting and championing. I don't need to do all that. There's already people doing all that. But when I watched that movie Sinners, it was about vampires. But, you know, it was about these black people living in the 20s, and, dude, they were sharecroppers, which was, you know, and it still was like that way. And I remember back when I was a kid, even my grandfather was like, he had to be careful how he talked with people, because you don't want to misconstrue that you're too friendly with black people or Hispanic people. And when
Really?
he had and my nephew can tell you, to this day, they still kind of segregate at Taylor Cafe, and everybody gets along. There's none of that.
Yeah.
But people still sit in a certain way. They do. The black people sit right here, Mexican people sit right here, white people sit right here. I went in there with an Asian friend of mine, and he was like, where are we going to sit?
Wherever we want.
Wherever you want. I always end up being one of the only people that does that. I sit between the Hispanics and the blacks, because a lot of my friends that I went to school with, you know, that I played ball with. And so my grandfather used to warn me. He'd be like, you hang around with a lot of black dudes, man. You got to be careful, man. You don't want these people finding out that you're too friendly. You know, this is like 1990s. And I told my grandpa before he died, you know, and I said, Papa, it's not that way no more. I was like, and it's a sad thing, because I think that he was a guy that was playing a role, you know, because I noticed like a lot of his friends, and especially my dad, a lot of his friends were Hispanic, and he went to this one barbecue joint in Thrall. It was owned by Mr. Jackson, who was a black guy. His cousin was one of our coaches. And I remember my grandpa went there religiously, and he would always say he made the best barbecue. And, you know, mostly black people there on the weekend, and my grandpa would be in line with me, and we'd be the only white folks in there. And then my grandpa would be like, don't tell people, you know, like it was some kind of, you know, it's the old South, man. And it was that way. And people would call me half-breed. Everybody did. Like the white, black, Hispanic, they would say that. But then it wasn't until I had a couple of my black friends from Austin, and we went in there to eat. And my friend Greg was like, yo, dog, that dude called you a breed. And I was like, I'm ignorant. I'm just like eating. I'm like, yeah, that's what everybody does. And he goes, you okay with that, bro? I was like, not really. I guess it's kind of a derogatory thing, but I just grew up being called that, you know. And this guy, he was an old Navy dude, and he was I guess he was a bigot, you know, whatever. I didn't care. He was serving me food. I'm not the one that's got to work there. He does, you know. It's like Dave Chappelle said when he goes into KFC, and they're like, you want a biscuit with that? You know, and he says N-word, you know, and he goes, yeah, I thought it came with it. What's all the problem here?
We've lost the ability.
He's the one that's got to work at KFC, not me. I'm leaving after I eat. That's what I thought. I just figured, you know, this dude's miserable. He's angry. He's serving people barbecue. And if he's racist, he's got to serve black and Hispanic people barbecue. That's on him, you know. So that's how I look at everything. I just don't even, I don't understand it. I don't even try to understand it. These people have this, they love to talk about it, but they don't really want to live it. You know what I mean? It's one thing to live it. And at one time, I lived with 3 black people. And I'm 2 of them are still alive and good friends of mine. One of them lives out in California. He works for a computer company doing security down in San Diego. He's a good guy. His name is Jerome. And yeah, I mean, I never thought about it. I was just like, well, I live with 3 black dudes, man. I didn't go, why am I living with these black folks? You know, like, let's go make a show, call it The Real World. You know, it's just a normal thing to me. But how many of these people that are so self-righteous in their whatever, would they live with black people?
No, they wouldn't, dude.
Exactly. You know, they love to talk, man. But they ain't walking the walk, man. And that's the thing that gets me, man. I don't understand that. Like, don't talk about it to me and say things because they wouldn't do it themselves. Or be around black people. Like, go to a black club. I used to go to black clubs. And a lot of my friends, you know, were in the hip hop scene and stuff like that. And I never thought anything of it. Well, some people would be like, well, they ain't gonna mess with you because you're big. You know, you did this. And I said, I fought a lot of them. I did. I fought them all the time. People would be like, oh, Wolf is racist. He's fighting black people. I said, that's what I'm around. You're working at a club, the Bayou Lounge, or you're working, you know, for Texas Relays. It's all black people up in there. What are you going to do, man? You're not getting crunk at a country bar.
No,
I mean,
no.
That's where I'm working, man. You know, and so my boys would call me up and be like, hey, and they'll pay you good too, you know. And my one homeboy, Noka, he's black, and he just says, hey, man, I need somebody who can deal with black folks because it takes a different type of person. You can't just walk up in there and be like, oh, you know what? I got this. You don't.
Which is why it's shocking to me that people think you're racist. I mean, anyone can tell, bro, you got – see, I'm from Milwaukee, right? But I'm from north of Milwaukee, though. So we grew up around a lot of cows, man. So same way you talk about best of both worlds, I got it the whole growing up because I speak well, man, and I write well, and I play instruments and speak Spanish. But, man, I can float in the city with the best of them. I live in the city. I live not in the hood now, but I don't live in the greatest part of town now. But it's everyone throws around the racist word when really it's prejudice. And at the end of the day,
2 different things, man.
It's 2 different things. You said it 2 shows ago, and this is what man, doing blue collar work, dude. I'll go pee in the porta potty at like a 9 o'clock break, and it's like, dang, y'all didn't write any of this on the porta potty this morning when I went to pee. Now I come in here. And it's all sort of slurs, but none of y'all will say it to my face. None of y'all will, and I'm small, dude. I'm only like 5'8", bro. I'm only 5'8", 150. So I don't know what people are afraid of, but
it's little guys can do something because I mean, all it takes is one move with a weapon or something, and that's over. I'm gonna tell you, man, little dudes, man, like Coolio says, you know, the smaller the bigger the gat be, you know. Yeah, it's true, bro. I mean, like I've seen some little dudes and they'll pull that heater out real fast, man, and you don't want none of that. I had a friend who was a little dude and he would use it. I mean, he would pull out a gun or a knife. You're like, oh, he's gonna use it. He didn't play around. I mean, so just because you're little don't mean and you're right, they ain't gonna say it to you have to. They ain't gonna say it to your face because they want to be closet racist or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah. It's weird and it's embarrassing. And you know, at the end of the day, here's how I come back at it, dude. Our kids are being trafficked and our skies are being poisoned.
That's right.
And it's happening to all of us. Can you they do not care if your child's black. In fact, if we look at what's going on in Canada and has been going on, they want melanated kids. They don't care about if it's a white kid, a black kid, a Hispanic kid. Man, low key, they want the melanated kids. We're gonna break it down. And you can be with the Klan, you can be with the neo-Nazis. You can't go buy non-poison food no more than I can unless you go into an independent farm. So we're all in the same boat here. And it's really just strange to me. Again, you're very well-read. So it's baffling to me that anyone who's well-read people don't care about race. We can see through it. It's just an illusion and a facade. And it's high time in this country. I don't mean to sound preachy, but it's high time in this country, dude. I'm more on the right too, man. I'm not with the no disrespect to y'all with the blue hairs and gauges, but I'm not with all that. Man, you're with the patriarchy. I get it too, dude. And it's like, wait, I thought I was black. I thought I was a minority just like you.
Exactly.
I thought we're both
say something else. You know, Mike Tyson said it best though. He even said it. He was like, everybody hated, and he's like, everybody loved Trump until he became a Republican. And then it was like Mike said it, and he was like, that's the truth. And then after he said that, then Trump kind of started saying, hey, you know, this is true. Everybody, but Mike Tyson was the first one to say that. Like he came out and said it because he always was real good friends with Trump. And then there was this the black lady that he put in charge of she's the one that investigates people who've been wrongly imprisoned.
Okay, yeah.
And Joe Biden, dude, like him and Hillary imprisoned more black men than anybody else, and they just threw people in jail. And then so did Kamala. And I'm like, dude, how are these people such hypocrites? And then you want to talk about she's not even black and she's claiming that. And I said, get out of here.
Dude, it takes 5 minutes of research to figure these things out. And people, again, like you say, the retardation has swept our nation. And people refuse to do their due diligence. It literally takes 5 minutes of research to figure out what Kamala was on back in the day. Takes a few more minutes of research to find out that Biden, and again, man, the Klan, whatever, y'all hide your faces. I ain't worried about y'all. But, you know, to find out that he had ties with Grand Masters and Grand Wizards. And I mean, I don't know, man. Who knows what's going on? I don't understand what's going on in this country, but it is just really funny to me that they call you racist. And I mean, you've embraced and educated so many of us on other cultures. It's just
well, it's a narrative that the ops want to push, that this narrative, you know, and it's like when I was coaching boxing, I actually got accused by a couple of parents of being racist against white kids. They said that. And that one of them, because I didn't have many white kids because it was in a black Hispanic neighborhood. And they said, this guy came up there and he was all bent out of shape. He was the stepdad of one of the children. And he says, why is my son being overlooked? I said, I was very straightforward with him. I said, he's not tough. He's not tough. I mean, he gets hit and he goes and sits down in the corner and he cries. He's a teenager, but he's not tough. He's just not tough. He's like, well, he needs to learn to take a punch. I said, I can teach him how to take a punch, but I can't teach him how to not hurt. You know what I mean? And that was the thing. I mean, and I was in my early 20s. I wasn't even much older than these kids, but these teenagers, I was teaching them. And I said, look, man, and I said, you know, it's the same principle. I've told you this, Anthony. I can teach you to be fast. I can't teach you to be fast. You're either quick-handed or you're not.
Yeah.
It's something that you got or you don't. And it's not my fault that genetically black people are pretty quick. I mean, they're fleet-footed and they're quick-handed, and they can, so, you know, and they're pretty skilled. You know, you can teach them easier too because they're hungry. They're in this horrible situation and they want to get out of it. And I'm sorry, but there's not as many middle-class white kids that are wanting to go and learn and be tough like that. And, you know, I got in some stuff with some people, you know, like I said certain things. I was just like, what does it take to make you tougher? And this one kid said, and he was a black kid. He was a smart mouth. And he says, be black, bro. I said, incorrect. I said, it doesn't matter whether you're white, black, Hispanic, whatever. But I was like, but my upbringing, I was raised very tough. Very tough. And so you could knock the crap out of me and I would just keep fighting. And it just, that is that dog in you. You either got it or you don't. I can't instill the dog in you. Now, further down the road, once you've been through the shit and you've been into a bunch of fights and you've been drug around by everybody and, you know, been how the hell beat out of you, you might get tougher. But I had the luxury, the fortunateness of getting the hell beat out of me as a kid. So when I was a grown man, I was dog ass tough. So that's a difference between me and a lot of these guys. So this guy started going off on me saying, oh, you're prejudiced against the white kids. I said, that's absolutely not true. I told him, I said, everybody is judged accordingly. And your son, he had 2 kids. The other one, I said, the one kid is pretty tough. And I said, he goes, well, that's my kid. I raised him, blah, blah, blah. I said, but his brother is not. He goes, that's his stepbrother. That's my stepson, blah, blah, blah. But I love him the same. I said, well, that's commendable. But I said, he must have been raised differently because he's not tough. He's not. And then years later, I ran into that guy in downtown, and I was working down at the club, and it was several years later, and he saw me, and he was drunk and eating a piece of pizza, and he says, you're Wolf, right? And I said, yeah. He goes, you used to coach at Pan Am? I said, yeah, I did. And then he starts talking about, he goes, yeah, man. He goes, I quit boxing. He goes, my dad put me in he went to Lord's to train, you know, and he had a guy that caught him to train him. And he says, and I just wasn't good at it. He goes, it wasn't my thing. I didn't really want to fight. He goes, my stepdad was making me fight because his son wanted to fight. And I said, yeah, you were not like his son. And so it wasn't a racial thing at all. It was just that this kid wasn't from that. He wasn't hood.
Yeah, not cut from that cloth.
Every one of those kids was hood. Seriously, this dude was not hood. You know, they were just living on the edge of the bad area, and they didn't live there very much longer, and they moved. But his brother went on to do MMA, do all kinds of stuff. I ran into him again when I was fighting down the coast, and that was interesting because he came up to me because I started doing the MMA thing. I quit boxing and did that. And it was crazy because like people would look at that and go, "Oh, well, you have you cut for the Hispanic people or the black people." That is not the case at all. I love everybody. Try to. People piss me off. No matter what you are, you piss me off. But I mean, like, I don't take nobody's shit. But like, I try to love everybody. And if somebody's wrong, they're wrong. That's it. That's just, it's right and wrong for me. There is no, like, I don't even look at that. Like, you know, one of my best friends, and we call her Big Mama. Her name is Eric. And she's a big black girl. And we've been friends since 1997. And dude, she is the nicest, sweetest woman you'll ever meet. My wife loves her to pieces. But I told her, I said, you would not believe how she gets down. I remember at the club, this girl grabbed my hair. I used to have hair down on my shoulders. It was beautiful. And this girl grabbed my hair. She goes, "Oh, I know you didn't," because she thought I was her man or something because we had gone out on like one date. So she's a crazy Latina, right? And she comes over there and she goes, "Nah, you ain't gonna do all that because she's baracha, you know." And she goes and she grabs my hair, and I was like this, and I just saw her get snatched up. And I'm pretty sure her soul came out of her body for a minute or two. Mama got a hold of her, man, and I'm telling you, man, she fought like a dude, man. I remember back in the day, you know, this is back in the Gap. I don't do this kind of thing anymore, but she did. She sold a certain type of pharmaceutical, and some dude tried to write a check. Big Mama goes, "Oh, okay, all right." She's like, "It's not gonna." He's over there like, "It ain't gonna bounce," you know. It's right there at the club, and I'm like, I'm watching this, and I'm like, what is this dude? You'll crack that brain tells you to write a check to this person. Look at her. And does she look like somebody who's going to play me? Right. She slapped that dude so hard, man. She goes, that chick ain't go, your head's going to bounce. And she bounced him off of the bar. Now, this is back in the day. She's not like that anymore. She's a born-again Christian. Praise God. She is a totally different person. But she told my wife, she was like, yeah, Wolf was a different person. She goes, I was a different person. She's like, and before I met Wolf and started rolling around with them, she's like, I worked with the Carnies. She used to travel with them. Yeah, so she was used to that.
Those people are crazy, man. You don't mess with Carnies.
Yeah, dude. She'll snatch you up real quick. And so I kind of kept her there, like, you know, hey, if a woman comes, I don't hit women, children, nothing like that. I was like, you just deal with them, you know. And she would boo. She had these two girls that were her sidekicks, both looked like twins, Christina and the other girl. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but they were Hispanic. And they would fight, and they would just beat up people in the club like it was crazy, man. And I just looked at it like, hey, man, you know, it was a means to an end, whatever it takes. You know, I was friends with Jewish people, Arab people, black people, white people, Hispanic people, Native Americans, you know, and we would just fight whoever came in there and started crap, you know, and we had issues with multiple other types, Armenians, Albanians, it didn't matter. We fought them all, and we took on all comers, motorcycle gang. We took on some motorcycle people. I'm not going to say the name of them because we've been at peace for a long time, but we had it out with them, and we had it out with a lot of these people, Italians, Greeks, Russians. Russians tried to kill me. I mean, and so did the Armenians. And we had Lebanese people that we were friends with and some that we weren't. And so, you know, it was a very ratchety existence, but you know, there are people from my past that can vouch for me 100 times over of all colors. And it was never about that. To me, money was green. The movie Blood In, Blood Out, he says money has no color. That's it. Like, this is what he says, you know, and it's like that to me was the crux of it. And if you're going to follow those kind of paradigms, you're going to, and I tell people this too, and holding grudges, you will always be broke, folks. Money doesn't have a color. And if you're going to try to make money, this is what I tell people about economics. When they want to ask me about economics, I said, the first thing you got to do is give up these hateful, angry, whatever biases, because you're going to have to do business wherever the money takes you. That's the first thing. And you can't hold grudges, because so many times in business deals, I see them fall through because, oh no, F that guy. I don't like that guy for what. I was like, did he screw you over financially? No, but we had something. Okay, that's personal crap. You're going to have to get past that because you will be broke. You will die broke. I promise you. The poorest people are the angriest that they're not able to get over things. I got a very short memory when it comes to those things. You have to move on. So progress takes its place when people stop being prejudiced, and you have to stop being prejudiced. There's this people that think that because you're not gay, you say, well, I'm not gay. And, so you must hate gay people. I didn't say that.
I thought that today. I was like, dude, where is your head at? Why would I hate?
Gay. That just means that means you're not gay. I'm not into dudes, man. I mean, I can say I'm not black. I don't mean I hate black people.
Where you get your big O at, that's your business, bro. As long as you ain't hurting women or children, dude. Mostly children. I don't care what you do. Go get it with a vehicle for all I care. People up there into that. I don't, a little weird, but hey, I'm a little weird, man. We sit here talking about vampires and stuff. So, but I don't.
Have you noticed though the vampire subject has really come up lately because there are people that are actually coming out and everybody's talking about it now. You have people like actors in Hollywood are coming out and saying that person's a vampire, that person's and you're like, holy crap, dude. And so now we're starting to see that this subject now, I talked to a guy recently. He said he had a bunch of vampire encounters from New Orleans. He wanted to write a book about it. He goes, but the publishers told him 20 years ago, they're like, nobody would buy that because it sounds too unrealistic. And I told him, I said, but now we're knowing that this is a real subject.
Man, let me ask you this, man. You talked about this a couple shows ago about the guy with the bestiary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. He has a channel. I'm not going to say his name or anything. I don't even think my camera froze. I don't remember his name. Have you seen any photos like that before with the teeth popping out, the pockets, all that stuff?
Yeah, I have. But, the idea that whether or not it's real or, false, it's hard to say.
Well, yeah, we'll never know. But I mean, have you've seen it before? That's where there's smoke, there's fire. So if you've seen photos, I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting topic, and I mean, I keep hearing Keanu Reeves' name pop in.
Yeah, I tell you this, man.
My bad.
Some people say that's all right. Some people say that these people are vampires from way back, right? Now I say this. There's somebody else was countering with, well, there's only so many archetypes, and I said, well, there's 26 known facial archetypes, and everything is a variation of those, right? Whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, doesn't matter.
Interesting.
Whatever. 26 different facial archetypes. So, of course, people are going to look like you. They're going to be like you. And so they ran this through AI. And I was reading this just a couple days ago. I think it was like Sunday or Saturday. I was reading this. And it was saying that, and I'm glad we brought this up because I wanted to say it yesterday, but I had other things to do, that everybody's a variation of that, right? But at this time in the world, there are 3 to 4 people who are identical to you. That is a true statement that was made by running this through an AI filter that said, hey, and this is what AI said, that there are 3 to 4 people some people could have as many as 5 to 6 or even 7 doppelgangers running around on the earth. Can you imagine that? There are people who've come across their doppelgangers and they're not related. Now they have the same genetics, but they're not related. That is an interesting thing. They're from a certain haplogroup or a subhaplogroup, and it just that. And so you stop and they go, well, we have pictures of Justin Timberlake from in the 1800s. We have pictures of John Travolta from the 1800s. We have pictures of Nicolas Cage from the 1800s. Maybe, but how did they come across those pictures? Because they're famous. They just decided that they wanted to go and try to find people that look like them. There's a guy that looks like Denzel Washington. People have talked about him, and he looks like him. Does that mean that Denzel is a clone? Not necessarily, but does that mean that, or because somebody look like them from the 1800s, they were, But when you start saying, okay, this person is being accused of vampirism, and then you add the photo to it, then it becomes even more, like, I don't know what's the word, damning. Then you kind of going like, oh, maybe this person is drinking blood. Maybe they were doing things, isn't that? You don't know. It's just a very weird thing. I mean, I don't. What's up, Richards? There you are.
Hey, sorry about that, buddy.
Yeah, it's okay, eh?
Right. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm good, eh?
I
So
know.
what happened? Did Edmonton finally get bounced? Are they done?
I don't know. Did they win tonight or not?
I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know. I've been barely keeping up with that or the NBA finals.
Yeah, after they shattered the bed the other night, I was just like, whatever, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just kind of because my stars were out, so I wasn't even worried about it. But I really don't like seeing these newer teams like the Panthers. Like when you don't think of Florida when you think of hockey.
No, you don't, do you? I mean, Tampa Bay won it how many times?
Yeah, Lightning. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right?
And then the Knights, the Golden Knights in Vegas. Now I do like them. I just like them. I like their uniforms, like the color. Harpin' Blues, if you're listening, you got bounced out on accident, but you can come back if you want to.
I mean, Gary Bettman said that the cup was never coming back to Canada, and I believe him.
Well, my buddy, my friend Sanjay, he's up there in Toronto. He's a huge Maple Leafs fan, and I told him they wouldn't get through the first round, and so I have to wear the hat.
You were right. You were right.
Yeah. But they did get through. They got through the first. I mean, like he was saying that they wouldn't. I said, okay, if they do it, I said I'll wear the hat.
It's funny how the Indians just love it too. They're some of the most diehard fans as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Lori. Hockey, yeah, but it's crazy because we got hockey here, like the Texas Stars, which is the one that feeds into the Dallas Stars. They play right down the road from me, and so you get to see the players that are going to become part of the Dallas team.
That's cool.
But, yeah, they're like right down the road, but it's hot as fire down here, and I'm like
the farm team or whatever.
Yeah,
that's a
Texas
awesome.
Stars. Yeah,
interesting.
So if anybody wants to join the show, we usually have a lot of people jumping in right here, but not tonight.
Oh wow, I'm an hour late, eh?
Yeah,
Sorry
it's been an hour. Yeah.
Sorry about that, man.
I told Anthony and Nelly and Tony and everybody. I said, the problem is that because we didn't do last Monday. Sometimes people kind of go, oh well, they're not doing Mondays, and then they just kind of fade off.
And here we are.
Yeah.
And here we are. So, anything fun and exciting this week, or
fun and exciting? Define that, because I've had exciting, but not really fun.
All right. How was exciting? Let's go exciting.
Okay. Got a lot of interesting stories. Got someone who. Here's an interesting thing. Let me find this. Scorpion's here. What's up, Scorp? How you doing?
Nice. What's up, buddy?
What's up, yo? What's up?
You sound like you're sleeping, dude. What are you doing? Are you sleeping on my job here?
No, I'm actually walking through the halls.
As he opens the door real quick.
He's like
sitting there and he's opening the door to make it sound like it.
Exactly.
Yeah, start snoring like when someone's in the middle of telling their story. You just hear.
That's what people talk about. Hardworking Mexican people, and then it's so Scorpion. He's over there sleeping. You're like, yeah, okay.
So
out here, make sure nobody's sleeping around the perimeter of the
building. There's an echo there, brother. You got an echo going.
We're getting some feedback.
Yeah, we're getting feedback. It's coming from you.
It's probably on that Bluetooth speaker or something.
Yeah, that Bluetooth always gets us every time, and you keep using it.
Bluetooth sucks. I
even bought him a nice one. Yeah, I bought him a nice one. 2 weeks later. I'm gonna remove him until he can get it. Oh no, I think it's Harpin' Blues. Is that you?
Oh no, I think it's Harpin' Blues. Is that you?
Yeah, I think it's you, Harpin'.
Is it? Yeah, man. I don't know what's going on. Let me mute my mic and cut.
Sorry about that, Scorp.
Hold on. I'm muting my mic. Let me cut all this stuff off.
Sorry about that.
There it goes.
Beautiful.
So I had a person.
Couldn't have been couldn't have been me. My speed cut out for big. When I stepped outside, I got out the Wi-Fi.
Well, yours does that though. Remember, I bought you that nice Bluetooth, and it just sat on my desk for 2 weeks.
I didn't know that you had bought it. Nobody had told me that it was there.
Dude, I told you it was there, but you didn't listen. You don't listen, man. You go, oh, okay, and you go up the stairs, and you don't even. It's right there, bro. So Harp, we were talking about some stuff, and you kind of cut off. You got cut off. Whatever. You know what you were saying about these
The overlords kicked me off, man.
You were saying about these.
yeah, the lizard lords.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's still like an echo. There's like a feedback.
There's still like an echo. There's feedback.
Yeah, I don't know why your phone wasn't
A little
doing that
quieter
earlier.
out.
I don't know
It's
why.
doing that now.
Why-
That's weird.
That's interesting. Andres says, anyone hear a kid voice pop in? That's funny because we were just talking about, I was going to talk about this one job site we had where it didn't happen to me, but it happened to multiple people that claimed that they heard like a child.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They all saw and heard like the same little girl in the stairwell.
See, when I was in that stairwell, I heard a child, but I couldn't
That's
make out whether it was
creepy.
male or female.
The guards saw it, and then that Nigerian guy who worked there, he worked for the hotel directly overnight, and he told me that he saw it.
Yeah, he was pretty cool. Like when I was working there with him, do you remember one dude that worked with us? Not Joe, because he worked there too. The other black dude, what was his name? The one that I played that weird rap and acted like I liked
Quincy?
it. Quincy.
Yeah.
Quincy was crazy, dude. Like
I think you played like Lost Island or something.
I played
for him.
Lonely Island.
Yeah.
He goes, "What is this? This ain't rap." I said, "Bro,
Yeah.
it's rap, bro." I was acting all like, "Come on, guy," like.
Yeah.
He was like, "Man, you white people are weird." I was like, "I said, man, they ain't even hard. Get down, bro." I said, "Listen to old school, easy, all kinds of crap. I'm just messing with you, bro." He's like, "Oh, I was about to say, man, this is." He gave me a ride because my truck was in the shop or something, and I had my brother use my other vehicle. This was like years ago, like 10 years ago or something like that. And he's like, "I'll give you a ride, bro. We're working at the hotel. We had 2 people there." And then I said, "Hey, man, play this music." And I put in Lonely Island.
Yeah.
I said, "It's rap, bro." It's that Andy Samberg, like, it's just like goofy. It's supposed to be goofy.
It's like
right?
the dumbest thing
It's
ever.
like milk toast goofy rap, right? And he was just like, "What is this?" And I was all like, "Yeah, dogs." And we like almost got to the house. I said, "Man, I'm messing with you, man." I said, "I listen to all kinds of stuff, man. I'm just these guys
listen to all kinds of stuff, man.
He didn't know what it was, man. He didn't listen.
He was never gonna offer your white ass a ride again.
Nah, he was cool though. Like,
he was cool though.
we were working that night together, and there was some kind of special day out there. It was like a golf game. I can't remember what it was from UT. They were playing somebody, and the other team had stayed there at the hotel. And so, yeah, Deborah says on a boat. Yeah, exactly. There was that album too, and it was some goofy stuff on that album. But so they had this golf team there. So we would do that. They would put their people up there at the hotel, the opposing team. And so we would do that. Like, I think every couple of weeks we'd have it, we'd have to go work with two people. And that Nigerian guy that worked there, man, he calls me on the radio. He goes, "Mr. Wolf," he's like, "I go upstairs and I hear a noise. You'll come with me." And so me and Quincy both went up the elevator with him. And this dude was nervous, dude. Like, I remember this, dude. He was like shaking. He was just like, he goes, "I don't like this place. I don't like this place." And I was just trying to act calm. I kept looking over at Quincy looking at me, and I was like, "See what happens, bro." Because we had both heard the noise before. And we're behind him, and Q, we call him Q. Q was like, he goes, "Man, it's that noise, the little kid in the stairwell." And so the guy was way ahead of us too. And he turned around and he goes, "You've heard it?" Like, Quincy was like, "Damn, this dude's got like supersonic hearing." Like, he heard me from like 30 feet away. And he goes, "Yes, sir. Yeah, we've heard that before. Yes." He goes, "You both heard that?" He goes, "I know, Wolf, you've heard it, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I've heard it." So he starts telling me, he says, "Man, I heard the footsteps go up the stairs, like going up and down the stairs." He goes, and then he's like, "I look and I see a child looking down at me." This is what he told me. And he says, when he looked up, he says, "Are you lost?" And the kid like laughed and ran away. But he didn't. Now, from that floor where he was at, which was the second floor, the top of that was what? The 5th floor? There was 5 floors, right?
Yeah, it's 5.
You would hear those doors, all of them, except for the first floor. All of those doors, when you let go, they were like, it was just this loud thundering, whatever. And he goes, and then I don't hear this child exit. The door doesn't open, the door doesn't close. And so it was crazy. Like so he's like telling us that there was a child that did not leave the stairwell. Now, I had worked at a place that Anthony dubbed the Haunted Tower, and I had dealt with this kind of phenomenon before, stuff in the stairwell running up and down. You could hear it. And I had been with other people who had heard this noise. And this guy, he was telling us that there was people that had stayed there that had seen this child, and this child had actually ran out at people, scaring the crap out of them.
Wow.
And I remember when what was that actor's name? The one that our guard ended up stalking, and it was so embarrassing.
Lance Henriksen.
Lance Hendrickson. And then there was some female actress. She had been in a lot of movies. And Lance, he was just very like sullen, you know. And he was just like, "Your guard is stalking me."
Yeah.
Just like so embarrassing, man. And I'm like, "Can you give me some examples so I can know what to talk to him about, you know?" He says, "Well, I ordered some food. I put it outside. He ate it."
Yeah.
I can laugh about it now,
Like
but at the
little,
time I was like, what? Like, you know, and I looked at him and I totally had to lie to Lance. And I said, "I've never had problems with this guy before." "Oh my gosh, what a lie. I lied." And he goes, "Well, he's a
Yeah.
problem."
And he goes, "Well,
And then he
And this was that hotel that was over by the graveyard, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and we were going by there the other day. After we dropped you off, Squirt. We dropped you off. And whenever we went by there, we started talking about these. Anthony was working there one night and he heard people chanting.
What?
Yeah.
yeah, there was this
Here, you go and take
there was this house across the street. So that place was, that hotel was weird. So right next door to it on one side was a huge graveyard, and then on the other side of it, right across the street, where it's a very old neighborhood. We're getting a lot of feedback. Still. Scorp, is that you? Okay, and there it is. But anyway, so I'm working there one day or one night. I was working the overnight shift, 10 to 6, and from like 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock, it's, you know, it's slow, nothing going on, whatever. But then 3 o'clock, I'm out in the parking lot, like standing by the front door, and like I hear like some people talking, like from a distance, and it's like several people. And you know, it's my job to find out, like, are there people creeping out in the parking lot? Like, what's going on? So I go all the way to the far side of the parking lot, where this neighborhood's on the other side, and I find where it's coming from. And there's this group of people out in the front yard of one of those houses, and they're standing in a circle, and they're wearing all like these all black robes, and they're holding hands. And they're just like chanting something over and over and over. It was probably Latin, but I didn't care to stick around to, you know, figure out
be
what
their
they
next
were saying.
sacrifice.
Yeah, because like they were like maybe 15 yards away from where I was at, and they were doing this right there in their front yard in a neighborhood. So
How many were there, Anthony?
There was probably at least 10 people out there doing that.
Wow.
And so this is the same hotel where, like I said, it's right next door to a graveyard, and the same hotel that people, every guard who worked there, and the front desk guy, the Nigerian guy we were talking about, who worked the front desk for the hotel, they all saw that and heard this little crying girl in the stairwell. And they also had this clubhouse that was behind the hotel that we had to go lock up. So like people claim to see things like running, like moving in the darkness through the window. But like the one time I had to go there and like lock it up, like you know how you can feel when an energy is so thick that it's like palpable, like you
Yeah.
can just cut it with a knife. So like I had to go lock that thing up at around midnight, and all the lights were off. It was pitch black in there, and I open the door and I step inside and get this feeling of like this extreme hatred, like if you've ever been around somebody who just really hates your guts, you know. And I had to check every room of that place, and it felt the same, like wherever I went, like someone was following me that just despised my very being. It was like extremely negative in there.
Yeah,
But
that's crazy.
That's what
there was something with that. I don't think it's the hotel as much as it is like that area,
that
maybe.
cemetery.
Yeah, that cemetery, that just like where it's at. It's the location.
Do you think they're using it as like a conduit almost or an energy source to people who were chanting nearby?
Probably.
I mean, I think that they would be people who were in the know about like the logistics of like Kabbalistic magic, or like esoteric beliefs, and how energy is manipulated. You know, how like what portals or vortexes are there. Like I think they would know enough to know like that they were trying to tap into something. They were trying to do like exploit something that was there.
Loosing off the dead, eh?
Yeah, just because it was so blatant. Like who does that in their front yard in the middle of town? This is like downtown Austin, in your front yard.
Yeah, and not only that, but like
they must have really wanted whatever they were doing. You know,
the cemetery there.
Mm-hmm.
That cemetery, people would see balls of light bouncing around in it all the time.
Yeah,
of course they would.
I did too. I saw it once. You know, well, no. There were two times. Here's the weird thing. I saw a light twice, but here's the one time it was two white lights moving back and forth, and it turned out that they were people with flashlights. Now that's weird because I had talked to what was his name? Chuck. He used to work for us.
Oh yeah.
And Chuck had
That's a nice
seen
guy.
that, and he says, "Dude, you know there are people walking around in that cemetery at night." And so I was positive that was a flashlight that I'd seen. But why are they walking around at 3 a.m. in the you know, and the maintenance guy that worked there, his name was Javi, and Javi had told me some weird stuff about that place. He saw a full-bodied apparition float out of the elevator one time, a woman that had no legs. You remember Javi?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was there. Javi Dominguez. But he was, and we ended up working with him over. He went to become he worked for those properties. I don't want to say the name of them, but they were the ones where the homeless people would get a place to live. You remember those?
Oh yeah.
And Dominguez ended up I ran into him at the one where you had the encounter with whatever it was. It was a spirit that was restless, or what, I don't know what that was. But that was a creepy place. And Javi was like, because he's always whistling.
Yeah.
And he always had that pencil in his ear. And I see this guy, and he stops and he goes, "Wolf!" And he points at me and he runs up to the glass. And I was like, "What's up, bro?" And I'm like talking through the glass. And I said, "Just go around." He comes in and he's like, "Yeah, I'm working here, man." He goes, "I do for all these properties." There were 12 of them at that time. Now there's like 8. And but he was man, we get in touch with him. He can tell you story after story after story. And that one that I was at where I met David, the guy that could read your mind.
Yeah, I remember that place.
The one on William Cannon. You worked at Scorp?
Yeah, I
We all
worked
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, your reception's real bad, Scorp. You're probably in that garage.
You're probably in that garage, huh?
I'm outside the garage right now. I got
outside the garage right now.
Somebody's phone is echoing. Let me take Blues. I'm gonna take you off for just a second to see who it is, and I'm gonna say so. Unmute your phone, Blues. So let's see. Scorp, say something.
I said, yeah, I worked there a few times. One of those times I worked there was
there's no echo, no echo, nothing. So I think it's Blues. So try to come back if you want, and we can see if we can get it to work.
If you got like some headphones that you can plug into your phone or something.
Yeah.
Man.
So, how are you doing, Amy? What you got going on? I see you got a shirt. What does the shirt say? Is
I
that
just
Paranormal?
got
Oh, is that-
it.
okay,
Can
so
you
you're
hear
like
me?
you're happy. Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Oh yeah, I'm happy. I'm like super excited. I got the stickers too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Awesome.
They're
So
so awesome.
you a winner? Did you win on the show? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I won a show last month. Yeah.
Good. Awesome. Glad everybody's getting their stuff. We mailed
Cool.
off like 30 something things.
Yeah.
It was a lot,
Yeah, I
man.
got here fast. Well, when
And we
you
still
sent. Yeah.
got a few to mail off.
Yeah, well, Paranormal Oz is one of them, but that's
Yeah.
we got to talk about that because I'm trying to get them to give me an international shipping deal. So, it's crazy. Talking about that hotel, we could just talk about that for a minute, but I mean, we really should just do a show about that place. I've said this before. I mean,
Mhm.
and if we could get in touch with Javi, because he only a few years ago when we dropped those accounts, he was still the head maintenance guy for all of those. And you barely saw him, but you saw his guys. And he worked at the one on William Cannon. And oh my gosh, that place was so bad. It was so bad. Let me tell you, they actually walled off. Scorpion knows, Anthony, you know this too. This is a true thing. They walled off part of that place.
No way.
Mhm.
Am I
Yeah, they
lying?
did.
No.
No, they had to.
They had to because they had so many people complaining about it, that people getting grabbed in their sleep and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
So the kitchen, the chow hall, they walled it off and they moved it. They moved it, and then they literally just kept part of it. And even
Everyone,
that stuff that was adjacent to it, they got the people working there were complaining all the time.
everyone knows that bricks stop demons, right?
Well, I don't know. Explain that to me. How does that work?
Yeah, no kidding.
It doesn't. Yeah.
It doesn't at all.
Yeah, exactly. But that place was so creepy, dude. You would see I would see shadows there like every couple nights. I'd see a shadow moving around by itself, creeping around like a dentist with the ether. Just sitting there looking at it. You're like, the guy I worked with, he was so used to it. He would just be like, whatever, man. He sees it all the time. He was a Buddhist.
Wow.
And he would just all the time. And there was a
Yeah,
guy
I
that
saw
worked
some
there.
photos over there, and I saw lights out at that hotel too.
You saw the lights, yeah, in the
In the cemetery, yeah. Like three different occasions I saw lights out there in the cemetery.
What was interesting about you and my brother, and I'd say Anthony and Tony too, to a lesser degree, but we ended up working at the same places a lot. And we would compare notes. I'd be like, I saw something weird. And then y'all would tell me, and then I would be like, okay. Oh my gosh. So then you're not crazy, but you know that this is actually happening. And it happened at the construction sites too, man. Those construction sites, when you start disturbing the earth, it does something.
Mm-hmm.
It does, man, because I hate working at those constructions, especially when they're new.
Yeah.
When they're new,
you hear all kinds of noises that aren't really there, that you see shadows that aren't really moving anywhere. I mean, it's crazy when they first start those construction sites.
The one in Georgetown, that one too.
Yeah.
What was that one?
That wasn't Real Tex.
That wasn't Real Tex. I know.
No, that was for a home builder.
Yeah.
Why do you think Texas is so haunted? Like, why is it that happens in Texas all the time?
I think every place is haunted. It just depends on what you're looking for. I think the people, it's you, whether you can feel it or not.
Fair enough.
What is that? What is that? No. It started with a C. Hold on, Squirt.
Oh, yeah.
They built
the retirement home.
The retirement home.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
man, I lived at that place pretty much.
They were building it, dude. And I remember working there, and Zane worked there. You, me, and Zane and Scorp all had experiences there.
Mm-hmm.
But that other guy we had working there, the guy that ran, what was his name? Hamid.
Oh, yeah.
He never had anything happen to him. He was like, I don't know nothing. I don't see nothing. I'm like, okay. Why was he not?
Just trying to deny it.
No, I just don't think he was connected to it. I don't think he was, But Amy, what do you got going on? Tell us what you have happening.
Nothing really, just chilling. Just working and chilling and working and chilling. Just kidding. I'm actually kind of nervous. I've never been live before anywhere on any podcast. So this is kind of new to me. I thought about it a lot because I do have a few stories from my childhood. And really creepy stories. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, Lori, to answer your question, I'm sorry. Austin. The hotel is in Austin.
Yeah.
And that we went up the floor. That guy, the Nigerian dude, he'd gone
Mhm.
all the way up to the top. Didn't see the guy. Since I didn't see a soul.
Yeah.
And but he claimed to have seen a child.
Well, he told me that he watched her disappear.
Yeah, he'd seen a
Right,
child.
yeah.
But this was another night. This
Yeah.
was he had seen it before. We had talked to him before this about it.
Yeah, he just told me about one instance.
There were multiple people who claimed to have seen this child moving around in that place. And like I said, Lance Hendrickson's lady that he did the movie with, whatever, she was telling me about it, claiming that a child got on the elevator and when she looked down, it was gone. Which was
I didn't really see the child as much as I heard it in the stairway one time.
Yeah, I
Heard
heard
her
it.
giggling.
I didn't see it, but I heard it.
I heard her giggling in the stairwells one time when I was checking the stairwells.
That was very common. That's what happened to Q too. He said the same thing. So tell us one of your stories, Amy. Let's get started with you. What do you got?
Cool. Well, which one should I tell? They're all kind of creepy, but I have a theory. It happened to me during my like childhood. I would say like, okay, so the youngest memory I have of anything happening to me, I was living in these apartments on, should I say where I live? What city? Or
You can say what city.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
let's do this. Like rule of thumb, like if you're on here, you're already. You don't have to say your name or anything. You don't even have to show yourself. But
Oh.
if you want to keep it more vague and you think it's a problem, just say the city, but don't say where. But if you don't have a problem with it, then just tell the full thing. That's all up to you.
because I'd like to know maybe you have any like stories from here, from where I had my experiences, because it all happened on St. Charles Street. When I was younger, it was on the east side, and when I was older, it was on the west side. So when I'm only like maybe I would say about 4 blocks away from the railroad. And when I was younger, I would say about 5 or 6, I lived in these apartments. They were pretty like, I wouldn't say they were really high end or anything. It was poor. And, there was always like all the little neighbors running around and doing stuff. And, well, that doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. It was just a poor neighborhood. And
What city?
it was in Brownsville, St. Charles. So at around that age, I started to see things in my house. I thought they were like dreams, because sometimes I would like stay on the couch awake watching TV, and I would remember waking up, but not really. I was just like I am now, like I would just be like this, and I could see spirit things. I don't know. They were just floating around. And I would wake up and on the couch and I think, did I just dream that I saw these beings in the house? My mom would play a lot of horror movies. She was always playing horror movies, like ever since I remember. And so I don't know if I had to play in it in my like imagination, but I do remember seeing that. Then one night I was asleep and I woke up. I had to pee, and the restroom was facing the bed. So when I got up, I got on the edge of the bed and I was about to go, like I looked inside the restroom, and when I did, I saw this dark shadow being sitting on the toilet looking at me with red glowing eyes. And I froze for a moment. I thought, okay, like that's really scary, right? Like I didn't know what to do. So I just went back to bed. And time went on and I started to sleepwalk. I would sleepwalk to the point where I would get out of my house and walk to the alleyway, which is like right next to the apartments.
Dang.
And my mom would wake up and she'd be like freaking out because she would hear the door open and it was me coming out. And I had several of those moments. I don't remember a lot about those times, but I do know I did go through a rough time around that time. So I know that played a part because my family life was pretty intense. So that's around the time that all that started happening. Like we were having family problems, and then I started to see all these things. Then like decades passed, right? And I'm talking to my mom about the apartment, and I told her, "Hey, Mom, like I saw a shadow being, you know, with red eyes. I don't know if it was a dream or not, but I saw it in the restroom." And then she told me that she has seen it too. And there was like the living room, and to the left of me there was a window. It was facing outside, and there was a tree. And she said that she looked through the window, and in the tree was like this dark shadow being, like, you know, like doing this and looking inside with red eyes. But he had a hat, which I didn't see, but she saw a hat on it. So I'm like, did she just see the hat man, and did I see the both the things? You know, like, is it two different beings, or was it the hat man that I saw? But yeah, it was a very dark time in my life. All of like the 5 through 8 years old, and a lot of that stuff happened there. And so I don't know, that was kind of freaky. I do feel like there is something old hanging around. Like in those apartments, a lot of bad stuff happened. Like people getting raped, people getting killed. To this day, those apartments are still there, and I always drive by and I always look and I think, and I remember all the moments I went through, you know. But the freakiest part was the sleepwalking, which it only happened there. It didn't happen again after that when we moved away. So something I feel definitely was hanging around. I felt it kind of ancient, or maybe even pre-war. I don't know. I feel like maybe the land is just a little tainted, you know, from the wars down here.
So you were in Brownsville, Texas.
Yeah. This is in the 80s. So I'm 41. So I would say we're like 80. I'm from 83. So I would say like, I don't know, 87, 88.
Geez, so that's you were small.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, in Scorp's on here, we stayed at a hotel in Brownsville. Right there, you could see the border from the hotel. So I used to go to Mexico all the time, and I used to go to Brownsville, Matamoros, you know, right there. And yeah, we used to go there all the time. And so we had stayed in a hotel down there, and it was the old Fort Brown hotel. And it still had the scars on the bricks from the fire.
Yeah.
Because the story goes that a man had done something to a local woman. He was a soldier. And these Hispanic guys, they took the law into their hands. The people that lived there, that, you know, whatever, but they were ranchers. And so the Mexican population was angry, and most of the soldiers were African American that were there, and supposedly 2 of them had done something, but they vigilante justice, and they attacked the fort. And when they shot a couple of these guys, they went to this other guy who was a rancher down there, and he had money and power. He was a white guy, and he basically funded them to go back and burn the fort down. Because one of the guys whose daughter it happened to, who had been supposedly essayed and killed, that, you know, she worked for him. That guy was his foreman that worked there for the ranch, and that was his daughter. So he wanted justice, and so he asked this guy who was friends with some very, you know, powerful people, and there were senators and things like that, and so he just funded it, and so they burned it down, and there were no repercussions. And so as they burned it down, they also took several people out and executed them. Not all of them died, you know, but they found the ones that they thought were responsible, and they did what they did. And there are still, when I was there years ago, there were still marks on those pillars. And when I talked to one of the hotel clerks, I didn't know what I was dealing with. And I asked him point blank, I said, "Is this place haunted?" And he goes, well, we're not supposed to say it because the management wants us to be quiet about it. He goes, but yes. He was just like, I told him what room I was in. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, and so what happened to you? And I told him, I said, I had the water coming on and off all night. I said, that might have
Yeah,
been one thing if it was just in the sink, but it was
no,
in the
it was
sink,
coming on the bathtub too, full blast, and
full
nobody
blast.
touched it.
Mhm. Middle of the
Um,
night in my bed, Scorp had his own bed, and I was in another bed, and our friend was on the floor. And he was a big old dude, big old guy named Rob. And so we were sleeping, and I felt something yank my covers off, and I thought it was Big Rob because he was laying on the floor, and him and Scorp had rock paper scissors to see who was going to get the bed.
And I beat
And so so you beat him, and then he was like, I thought he was because he's a big old guy. I thought he had yanked my covers off. I got up like kind of aggravated, like literally, I was like, "Punk, I'm gonna kick your ass. Why you grabbing my covers, man?" Got up off the bed. He was over there, just out, and the
yeah, and
covers
he was
were
closer. And he was closer to me than he was to you. And his
yeah, he was
covers were
closer
nowhere
to your
near him.
bed, and so my covers were off on the other side, and
Yeah,
I was like, "What the freaking heck?" So I got up and I looked around, and I looked out the. I thought maybe somebody came in or so. I didn't know. The door was locked. I look out, and then in the middle of the night, I woke up and it was hot, and I was like, "Why am I sweating, dude?" It was like 3 in the morning or something. And the AC had gone off, completely off. So I had to go and like turn the knob and literally turn it back on. And I also
yeah. And he
noticed that
fell
the
asleep with
curtains,
it on too.
yeah, and fell asleep with it on. Yeah, the curtains were wide open, so anybody walking by could just look in. And I don't do that in hotels. You don't know what
Mm-mm.
kind of people are out there. So I closed the
No, we
curtains, and I was
always
like, "What the heck?"
we always make sure the curtains are closed so ain't nobody sees what we have in the room.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's weird.
yeah. It's just I don't know why that was. And then when I
Yes,
was
you
laying,
do.
do what?
Yes, you do.
Well, I don't know what kind of spirit it was. I don't know who it was or what it
Fair
was. But when
enough.
I laid down on the bed, the curtain moved like somebody. This is weird. The curtain moved like somebody was moving behind the curtain, and I was like looking at it. So I just kind of like put my hands in the back of my head like that, and just went to sleep staring at it because I was like, okay. And then eventually I woke up and it was daytime. And then Rob had reported somebody like trying to roll him, like roll him, push him. And he's like, dude, somebody was trying to push me. Was that y'all? I was like, no. He goes, because I looked up and I thought I saw a guy standing there, but it looked like a black guy.
Yeah, and that would be some feat too, because he was a big guy.
He was a big dude. He's like 6'6". He weighed about 420 pounds. And Scorp,
Yeah,
and about that time, I was weighing about 280. I was a big dude, but I wasn't even 300. And Scorp, you were asleep and you felt something touch your back, or what happened to you when you were laying in the bed?
yeah. I felt like somebody was pushing on my shoulders. What it was, like trying to shake me awake. And I woke up. When I looked over, there was nobody there. Nothing.
Yeah. And the next day, man, that clerk was just like, and I might have talked about this on the show before. I don't know. But that happened in Brownsville, Amy, in your town there. So I can tell you this, there's some creepy stuff there in Brownsville, and I've gotten stories from that place too. I had somebody recently message me, and she was like, "Do you believe in brujeria? Brujeria, whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And she's like, "Well, I live in outside of Brownsville." I said, "Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, it's there's a lot of it down there, a whole lot of it. Look at those people. Look what happened. Look up, folks, if you ever get a chance to read about the murders that happened down in Matamoros, across the border there, and Mark Kilgore, who was killed by people in Mexico that were doing, black magic. He was a UT student, and they actually killed him and ate part of his body as part of a satanic ritual. So yeah, it's pretty rough down there in the valley. People seeing a lot of weird stuff, like the Raymondville creature. What is it called? The Pajaro, whatever. When you look at that thing, I mean, it's a flying creature. But some people think it's like an ancient dinosaur-looking creature, but I think it could have been something that was summoned because of all the magic down there. What do you think, Amy?
Yeah, for sure. And like I mean, even my mom used to have a thrift shop downtown, and like I remember even there was a point in time where they were trying to get rid of the people there that were renting for like whatever. They wanted to get rid of the people so that they can get the shops. And one day we saw like herbs, but it smelled really bad in front of every door, including my mom's. And after that, a lot of bad stuff started happening. Like the next door burned down, and then like it created like this. It didn't burn down my mom's shop, but it did like we had to close it. It was like a lot of soot, and it was bad. And we didn't want to believe in it because we were like, oh, what is this? Like, but we knew it was brujeria. So yeah, they say that the people in the city work with brujeria, the people in power, and they go to brujos to get their way, to do things, just to get money or just to coerce in a way other people or businesses. So it happens a lot in businesses, and that I know of. I know a lot of people in business, and they tell me a lot about stories like that they either have things sent their way or left at their door, things like that.
So under fire, I put you on the show, but then you were making noise. I don't know if you could mute your deal, and I'll put you back. So I know you weren't doing it on purpose. You can hear me under fire.
Yes, yeah. Sorry,
I feel like you're typing
didn't
away
realize-
there or something.
Yeah, I was typing. I didn't realize you called me on. I minimized the screen because I was just replying to something. Sorry about that, guys.
It's all right, bro. I know you're a good guy. So, Amy, it's interesting when you say that about these people that are making this stuff happen. I can tell you this 100%. That is a currency down there, folks. When Abe Seas is talking about this, and all these trolls like to mess with him and aggravate, whatever. But Abe is not lying about that, because I spent a lot of time down in the valley. My patrino, my godfather, he owned a trucking company down there, and he used to let me go and use his beach house. My dad was good friends with this guy. And of course, when I was a child growing up, I went down to San Juan. And then I did a little stint down there too, down in Harlingen. So been a wayward child for a while, and I had to do, but I would go down there and I would hang out at a couple of different clubs down there. Not really my thing up here, but that's where a lot of business was conducted. Stilettos was one of them. And hung out at the Jaguar Club in Harlingen. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'd spent some time in those places, and I was well known down in the valley. Like, a lot of people knew who I was. Like, they were like, "Oh,
I went with you on a couple of those, didn't I?
Yeah, you were down there running around doing stupid things with me. Los Fresnos. Remember, we found that dog.
Oh yeah,
There was a dog. The little peso. He had a little peso, and I was like, "Take that off his collar there." It was a gold peso.
yeah.
And it was worth about $1,000. So somebody's dog, that was somebody's dog, and we kept it with us for most of the trip. And then I was like, we got to do something about this dog. And so we gave it to this cleaning lady. She was like, "Oh, he's so cute." And I was like, "Oh, here, take it." And she thought I was Superman because I had the Superman hat on, like this right here. I said, "I know we look a lot alike, but Superman no here." And I told her, I was like, "I got a cookie and more lemon flesh." And she was like, "Oh, okay, here's the dog." So just kidding. Like, we gave her that dog, man. I remember it was swimming with us. Remember at the pool?
Yeah.
And then the little kid was playing with it.
Love the water.
Yeah, that dog loved the water. I said, "Do you want it?" Because we just ended up with it. Yeah, and it was crazy because like the lady that we were bodyguarding, she ended up going to jail for trying to stab somebody at the hotel in not Edinburgh, McAllen. So she was a little, what do you call it? Like brat, And she fly. So she was down there causing problems, and we were trying to bodyguard her. And her uncle was the mayor at that time. I'm not going to say when, but so we ended up having the dog. And I asked her uncle, I said, "What do you want me to do, Pedro?" And she's like, he goes, "I don't care. Give it to somebody." I said,
he didn't like that dog at all.
He didn't want to deal with it. He said, "I don't care about that dog." And I was like, "Well, I'm not just going to give it away to anybody." But the cleaning lady and her daughter were like playing with it. And so my brother was like, "Hey, you want that dog?" And they're like, "Yeah." So that was a crazy trip, but we had some weird stuff happen down there.
Yeah.
I remember my friends. I let one of my friends stay down there on the beach, and I cleared it with my godfather. And I said, "Hey, can he use and he'll pay you whatever." He said, "I don't care." He said, "But you're responsible for it, mijo. You don't let nobody. Something happens, you're responsible." And I said, "Okay, if it's dirty or something, I'll take care. It's one of my people. They're not going to do that." And so he told me, he says, "Dude, I woke up at night." Now this was our friend John. And he's deceased now. He was a really good dude. But John, he woke up in the middle of the night and he said that he heard slapping on the back of that glass. And he said he got up, and when he walked out, he was all bleary-eyed. It was summertime, and he goes, there was a patio right there where it led up to that beach house. And he saw footprints going up to the glass. And it happened 2 nights in a row. And then his girlfriend, eventually, she was up late watching TV, like on a Saturday night. And she looks and she sees this guy. Well, I don't know if it was a guy walking back to the beach from like straight beeline from that condo. And there were other condos over there, but they were spaced out, And she said that he just like got to the beach and like disappeared, like faded away. So I'd asked my godfather about it, and he said, yeah, he thought it was haunted, but I had never had anything happen to me there. But here's somebody says, Abe speaks the truth. I don't have the same level of abilities, but I can feel the energies, but the energy is heavy down in the Rio Grande Valley, both positive and negative.
Yeah,
So Amy, what you're saying basically is the truth. I mean, there is a
I got
lot of
family live out there, and I got family lives all up and down the valley, but they're mainly in like Mathis and Corpus.
Dude, you got family everywhere in Texas, dude.
I got family from California to New York, brother.
Amy, or Dick, or anybody that's on the panel here, have y'all seen The Golden Girls?
Of course.
Okay, Betty White's character, my cousin in St. Iola, that's Scorpion, but a Mexican guy version. My cousin Palito over there in Mathis, my cousin over there in Corpus. I'm like, dude, you got a cousin in every place ever. My cousin in El Paso, my cousin in this town, It's like, dude, great.
It's interesting you bring up the.
I got a big family. I told you when I was younger, we go to family reunions at least 300 people.
Oh, I saw the pictures of y'all at the lake over there, dude. It was like 400 people.
Yeah.
That's on one side. My dad's side.
That was my mom's side of the family.
Dude.
That was my grandmother's side of the family. That's it.
I think my dad's side, just my dad's side, is they could rival any Hispanic family. They are. We had 130 people at Thanksgiving one year.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why we have this big church we rent out so we can do. Scorp, you've been there. There's a lot of us on my dad's side. Bunch of hillbillies, dude. And then my mom's side is Hispanic. That goes without saying. They're going to be.
Well, yeah, they got to sit there and use one of the city hall places where they do like parties and stuff in order to do Thanksgiving for the family.
Yeah, it's the church. Yeah, they have a hall that they rent out, but we rent it out. It's from the Lutheran church. I'm not Lutheran, but a lot of my family is. And so they it's crazy, dude. And I tell people, they're like, "Oh, you're Hispanic. You have a big family." I say, "Yeah, but my dad's side is huge." And not only that, but my dad's got several half brothers and sisters, and they have a huge family. They're humongous, and they're over there in the hill country, all over Burnett and that area, and Burnett and Joppa, that area. There's a lot of them. Like I'll run into people, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's that's one of my cousins." Like they're related to me. But so when you're down in the Rio Grande Valley, Amy, and you were a child, like you were talking about what happened to you as a child, did you have experiences as you got older? Did you see things, or did something happen to you?
Yeah, weirdly enough, after that we moved into some apartments and we were fine there. And I had my little brother. He was born around that time. Everything was fine. And then we moved back to St. Charles on the west side. And that house, it wasn't an old house. It was, I would say built in the 90s. It was kind of new. But we didn't have like AC. I didn't even think I had a window AC. I just had the windows up the whole time. So my house was right next to the alleyway. And it was like the window in the alley, right? There was no fence or anything. But it was like one of those hot nights, you know, in the summer. And I decided, I was like middle school. And I was like, I'm just going to leave the window open. Right? Like, it's hot. And we were sleeping in bunk beds. So I was on the bottom bunk bed and I was right next to the window. And one night I wake up, like I'm, you know, just there. And I wake up and I see this hand, a black hand, like rubbing my belly, like doing this, but
Whoa.
slowly, okay? It was like, and I freeze and I'm like, I don't know what I'm seeing. Like, I can't believe what's happening, you know? And I kind of flinch a little bit. And the hand, you know, you think if it was like a human, it would have been like, right? And then take off. But when I flinched, the hand just went like this, out the window. And I rolled down and I had like a little bat. And I'm like, looking, and I run to my mom's room and I'm like, there was somebody here, like they were rubbing my belly, you know, like, and we didn't even call the cops. My dad went outside and like, he went looking around. There was nothing. I didn't hear anybody run away. Nothing. Like, it was just that black hand and that was it. That's all I saw. And the arm. So that happened. And then like a couple of days later, my neighbor's house gets like we were right next door, same houses. It was like 2 houses that looked the same. And their house gets broken into. And so the cops are there and they're like taking our like witness accounts. And then we tell them, oh, a couple of days ago, something, you know, somebody was touching my daughter, right? So like the woman cop, and she's like, hey, so are you gonna tell me like, you know, it's okay, you can tell me if anything else happened? I'm like, I hope not, you know, and I didn't even think about that moment, but I was like, what if something else did happen? You know, that's so gross. But I only woke up when I felt it in my belly. And I told her, well, no, all I remember is that and that. That's all. And we never like saw a person or anything. So that was strange and a strange encounter. And then I started to get recurring like sleep paralysis a lot. And around that time, I remember I don't know if this has anything to do with this, but I remember being a lot into aliens, like a lot. They were in, like, it was in the 90s. I would say it was like in 97, 98. And like alien things were around. And I was like, I love aliens. Like, you know, it was all about aliens. I would draw aliens. I would have alien like stickers everywhere. And I'd be like, oh, I love aliens. And everybody knew it. But when I started
dreams of seeing anything weird, any alien, like any just weird, even brief dreams.
What?
Did you have any like real brief dream where you saw maybe an alien or?
I didn't.
Okay.
The only thing that I did feel though is that when I would get these sleep paralysis, I was facing, like, my bed was like this and the door was here, and so when I would get it, I could only turn my eyes, so I would like see, and I would see somebody opening the door, and it was like a slim, like there was always like 2 or 3 slim figures walking into the room.
So a lot of these entities can, from all the research I've gathered, a lot of these entities they disguise themselves as other things. There'll also be other things from other dimensions that'll come into sleep paralysis that absolutely links with it. Sleep paralysis is interesting. Sometimes it seems people are leaving their bodies and going to places. A lot of times they're being attacked by these things, or these things are trying to come and abduct them and take them somewhere. And that's when they'll be trapped. And you kind of have that experience. So that all kind of ties in together. I can't say exactly what was bothering you. But yeah, you definitely were having something that was attracted to you and coming after you. And that's why you're having those experiences, it seems to be.
Yeah. I don't know if they were aliens, you know, it felt weird. But you know, when you get the fear take a hold of you, you don't know what to think. And, you know, around that time, I wasn't very, I wasn't going to Catholic church, but I didn't really connect with it. I really didn't have that connection with God. And so
Did
even
you
when
do
my mom would tell
catechism
me,
when you were young?
I'm sorry?
Did you do CCD, like catechism? Did you do that when you were
Yeah,
young?
I did. I didn't. Well, and I didn't go to. I didn't take my communion. I just did my first confirmation. That was like the most I did. But after that, like I guess I stopped going. I stopped having faith. I didn't even believe in Jesus at that time. I thought he was fake. You know, like he wasn't. I thought maybe he was a real person, but they didn't have all that power. So I didn't even believe in him. And I think around that time I was like, I'm agnostic, you know. I wasn't really just a faith. And so even prayer didn't work. It was really hard for me to get out of these situations. And mind you, like I was sharing a room with my brother and my sister. My brother was on top and my sister would sleep on the floor. Sometimes we would like switch and someone would sleep on the floor. We like rotate. And nobody could hear me. Nobody, of course, knew what was going on. But I did have it would happen at least 2 to 3 times a month. And there are several times where I felt like even my body was like floating, like I was just up there floating. And so I don't know if that was me going into my body or.
Did you have like a spinning sensation, like you're like rapidly spinning inside your body?
No, it just felt like I was floating on top of my bed.
Okay,
like
yeah, you
being
could have
like
been
that.
out of your body, yeah.
Yeah, like that, or it could have been out of body, right? So yeah, it's hard to tell, but during that time, there was a lot of like family issues. There's a lot of depression going on. Like I had a lot of suicidal thoughts, and it was a really rough time. It was like around my high school time frame all the way to I got married, because I didn't leave my house till I got married. And around that time, my ex, where I'm already divorced, but like my ex, he was very spiritual, and he was telling me like, okay, you're letting the fear overcome you. He showed me how the fear was like allowing these entities to be coming to me. So I thought, okay, all right, like I started to feel, because I would get scared. Like I was always scared. I'd be like, did you hear that? I'd be in the middle of the night, I'd be like, did you hear that? And it was like that, like that fear. Like I just heard a noise and I knew something was there, or, like I would get woken up. But the moment I moved out of there, remember we were living in a mobile home, and like I woke up in the middle of the night and I started to feel the fear. Like I started to feel my body going to the paralysis.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, this isn't happening. I was already like getting more spiritual power. Like at that time I was starting to study more about other things, like energy and Reiki. And I felt like I started to connect more with archangels. And I called Archangel Michael, and I thought, please, Archangel Michael, like come over here. Like I can feel it, like it's happening. And I like just gave it all my faith, and it stopped like midway. Like it just like completely stopped. And I thought, okay, is it coming back again? And never did. And I actually never had sleep paralysis again after that. So I thought like overcoming my fear was one of the best things I could have done, because like if I was still in my younger age, I would have been living in fear.
Did you say the St. Michael prayer? Is that what you did?
No, I just called upon him.
Did you feel anything?
I've never been good with prayer. Like I always forget the prayers. Of course I know like the Our Father and all that, because it was ingrained in me, but I don't know a lot of prayers by memory. So I would just be like, please come and help me, and that was it.
Did you feel anything when the Michael the Archangel was in your presence? Did you feel a warmth, like heat?
I felt like a love, and like I don't know. I felt like a light. But interestingly enough, years later, I had my son, and we were spending a night with my mom, and he was like a little kid. He was maybe like 1, and we were like sleeping on the same bed, and in the middle of the night, I see something come in the door, like a dark being, and I knew it was dark. I felt like it was heavy. I felt like it was negative, And I thought, oh, hell no, like, you're going to get the F out of here. And when I did, I called upon Archangel Michael and I extended my right hand out. And when I did, this is like a flashlight came out through my hands and it went like that. And then all I remember is waking up in the morning and I thought, did that really happen? You know, like, did I just like banish a spirit from my mom's house? You know, because I was just like, it was so crazy. I will never forget that. It felt so real. And I felt like it was because the moment I connected with Archangel Michael, that's when it, like, my hand did the thing.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times people claim when they encounter archangels or even archons, they'll feel like a heat. Here's an interesting thing, and I'll say this about that. What I'm talking about is like the archons at one time were angels. Some of them were high-ranking angels. And so whenever you have a movement or something, whether it's good or bad, whatever, whether it's good or bad is like subjective depending on who looks at it. So this obviously, if you rebel against God, you're not good. But I'm of the opinion that the ones that were in charge convinced others that weren't really bad, but they were kind of like influenced. And so they fell. They went along with it, you know, which is not a good thing. But they weren't all wholly evil. Like I think that the leaders were evil. They were bad. They had their own bad intentions, whatever. And but I think that what I was explaining to Anthony, we were talking about this earlier. Hold on one second. I'm dealing with work. And I think that there are good and bad in these movements, but I think that a lot of times things are, let's say that you have a movement, for example, that's considered to be completely evil. The communist movement in the Soviet Union or China or the Nazis, whatever. Or if you talk about the, what do you call them? The Khmer Rouge or whatever, you know, the rebellion against God, the worst one of all, but you still had some that were there that would probably be considered like more neutral, but that they had chosen the wrong side and they were doomed. That was it. But they weren't necessarily like, they might have been at one time, like sort of just kind of like on the fence, ambivalent, you know? And so either way, there are people who have claimed that these angels, these archons, some of them are now that, I mean, after eons, I'm sure they're very evil. Yeah. But they would talk about them with reverence and that they were actually, you know, the predecessors of the Nephilim, the fathers of the Nephilim, whatever, that some of them were actually warmth. Like they had this warmth because that was what angels had. Now that doesn't make them good or bad. That's a way to sense their presence. When you are dealing with certain entities, you're going to feel cold. When you feel something really, really hot, that's a whole nother ball game. And I'm telling you, that is one of the ways that many people claim that they can tell that this is not a normal demon, it's an archon. And if you're getting a horrible, dreadful, evil feeling from it, then that is bad, really bad. Because that could be that this thing is really, you know, what you felt, that if it was really, really loving and something that cared, you know, whatever, that's a good thing. That means that you were probably okay. Now, I wouldn't suggest going, get the F out of here and then calling Michael right afterwards, because that's probably not conducive to something good coming for you. But also, these beings are in a higher wavelength than us. They know our intentions. They know that we're just fallible little beings. And it brings the whole thing into focus about whether or not, you know, the God of the Old Testament is the God of the New Testament. I will say this. I believe that it's supposed to be. This is my true belief. And I've posed different theories on this show. But in my heart of hearts, I think that it was supposed to be. But I think that the people who wrote about him lied. I think in the Old Testament, which is the Tanakh, and Dick, you know a lot about that. But I think that they wrote
the Torah. You mean the Torah?
The Torah. Well, yeah, but the Tanakh was the original.
Okay.
The Torah was spun off from that, but the Tanakh was the oral tradition written down. That's what they use. Torah is in there. It's a part of the Tanakh. The Tanakh being like the Jewish oral tradition, but I think a lot of it that they wrote down what they wanted God to be. Like they wanted God to have certain human characteristics They wanted Yahweh to be this, that, and the other, and so they made it that way. That's closer to what I truly believe. And I'm not going to sit up here and defend myself and fight people that want to say, oh, you don't believe in God. I don't believe in their God. That's the difference. The God that I believe in is the God that Christ talks about.
Yeah.
The Father of Christ is not the same because he doesn't have any of those characteristics.
I don't think anyone knew. Sorry.
I think the humans do that. I think that, hold on one second. I'm done with work.
Abe Finkelstein told us straight up who their God is, bro.
Yes.
He said it was Lucifer. And Lucifer is the one that
Straight
fell.
up. Straight up.
And I think no one knew Jesus' father until Jesus came into the world, at least his
We didn't know who he was. They were saying that it was this other being or whatever. But and then again, it could, and now here's another question that you can pose. And I'm sorry, Amy, that this opened up this whole, but it was a segue into this, and I think it's important. But the question is, if it is a demiurge, because and I'm saying this because you were talking about being agnostic and not really knowing what. So I'm kind of explaining.
Yeah.
If there is a demiurge that is not truly God, but that it was an ignorant being that was not necessarily evil or good, but just created, right? This is the Gnostic view. Okay, I'm not saying this is what I believe. And whenever I say this is people believe that, they always like, oh, that's what he believes. You can read a book about communism and not be a communist. How about that?
Yeah.
You can read a book about the Nazis and not go goose stepping into the next world or whatever. I'm not ready to invade Poland because I said that I don't give a crap about Hitler. But the point is this. Sorry for getting, but it kind of aggravates me. People are so ignorant and they get stupid things in their mind. What I can say is this. There are beliefs. The Yazidi, one of them. They believe like this. They believe that this God of this world was given this world by the higher God. But
Yes,
you're not supposed to go over him. It's kind of like in the military. You're not supposed to jump rank because the good is supposed to be rank and file, whereas the enemy really isn't. They're all over the place. And that's the strength of the good, right? So I've literally talked to these people. And I have several friends that were Kurdish, and they were like, oh, no, those people are weird. My cousin's that. And I said, yeah, can you get me in touch with your cousin? I want to talk to him. So this guy Shamir, and I talked to him and I said, can you tell me what you believe? And he's kind of looking over at his cousins. He's like, well, they don't believe like me. I said, I don't care what they believe. I want to know what you believe. I'm not going to stone you. I just want to know what you believe. This is America. Okay. And so, he told me, he says, look, he's like, I believe in the peacock God. I believe that he was given this, this world by God.
You know who that is.
Yeah. But the way that they speak about him is very similar to what the Jews speak about Yahweh. It's a very telling thing. And when you are like me, and I'm not saying I'm better, I'm smarter, no, but when you have sat there from the horse's mouth and interviewed these people, I've interviewed some of my Israeli friends, and I am friends with them. They have a business that I frequent, and I talk to them, and I talk to them at length. And I've interviewed them about their version of God and what they think it is. And I've actually spent time with rabbis. I spent time with Muslim clerics in Jamai.
Sorry to hear that.
Doesn't mean that I'm a Muslim, man. I've been to synagogue. Doesn't mean that I'm Jewish. I just want to know what they believe. I've been to Hindu temples. And I've been to Buddhist temples. I have shrams and everything in between. And I've studied and learned with these people. And that's what you got to do because you need to get all the pieces. And nothing has come closer to me. My friends that are Christian have criticized me for going to these places. And I said, I'm not worshiping and supplicating their gods. But I can tell you this. I need to know what they believe. Yeah. Because getting to know their beliefs has brought me closer to Christ than I could have ever been. Because I'm listening to them and I'm going, this confirms what I believe, that Christ is the way.
Yeah.
Because they don't really have the way. I'm telling you.
Sun Tzu told you, bro, know thy enemy is thyself, and in 10,000 battles you will never be in peril.
You have to know. You have to know. And you got to know a lot of these people don't like us. Sorry, but that's the truth. The Buddhists were the most friendly toward Christianity and toward me, and they were very ambivalent, like toward of just like whatever, at worst, and at best they were very like loving and very kind. I mean, and they were like, whatever your belief is, we respect it. And so they were very, giving people, everybody else tried to convert me. They wanted to convert me. They wanted me to be.
From what I remember hearing about Buddhism is that you're allowed to be a Buddhist and still practice other religions
because it's technically a philosophy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Tony says, "Yeah, we're pretty dope." Okay, whatever, dude. He's also a Christian, but and I learned that I I was invited to the Buddhist temple the first time. It was in 2002, and I went, and it was interesting. I learned Taoism. There's all kinds of things, Shintoism, and I studied all these different principles and things, and I learned a lot. I look at these different cultures and these different people's beliefs, and I have respect for them. They are respectful to me, then I'm respectful to them. But I don't give supplication to false gods. I do not do that. I don't feed my dead ancestors fruit or any of those things. I don't have a temple built or a shrine in my house or an altar. I don't do that. But I will say this. Some of these people believe in a higher God than us, obviously, because we're like peons. But they don't accept that there is a God above that, which is the true God, which I believe is what Jesus was trying to point to, because he told them, he says, your father is not my father. Your father is Shaitan. He's a shaitan, basically, or the Hashatan, as they would say in the Hebrew. But hey, JD, how you doing there, buddy? But so if you want to jump on, JD, you're welcome. But so, this weird thing happens, when you go and you explore these other things, you start to become closer to yourself and to God, the true God. They all have a higher being and are beings. And they admit most of these places that you go to, these religions, they'll tell you that there are good and there are bad and there's things in between. The Arabs are very specific, and so are the Jews. The Jews and the Arabs both will tell you. The Jews call them the Shadim, and we call them the Shaitan. Those are evil. But there's a version of them, like the Jinn, that are not good or bad. They're good, and then they're evil and everything in between. They're just like people. And before them was the Jinn. The Jinn were a race of beings that were mostly good, considered to be like noble, which I believe could have been the race of beings that the Hindus referred to as the immortal ones. Basically, they were people, but they were giants, and they died, and they became good spirits that would actually look after people. This is something you have to understand. The Jinn came after them. Now, the Jinn could be from the Techa Yuga, because it fits kind of into the Hindu belief. The Arabs will never want it. They don't want that. They don't want it because they're predominantly Muslim, and they're like, no, that can't be correct. Well, if the shoe fits. And then you have Krishna, Kalik. Krishna is like Christ. He's going to do everything that Christ is doing. It's hard to argue that. I mean, it really is, with a few minor exceptions. Now, I asked the Muslims this, and I said, the Muslim clerics and the imam that I talked to, and I said, look, let me ask you a question. I said, you are a learned scholar, 36 years at that time. This was 20 years ago. This he's probably gone now, but he was an old man. And I said, let me ask you a question. 36 years as a scholar. You've read the Hadith, you read the Quran. I was reading it at the time. And he said that all you got to do is just trust in this book. And I said, okay, yeah, I trust it to a degree. Not a very trusting person by nature, but I said, let me ask you a question. I said, you believe that Christ is going to return, right? And he said, yes. I said, why him? If he's not the Son of God, why Jesus? Why did Muhammad tell you that Jesus was going to return? Because Muhammad never says, I'm going to return. He never says any of that.
He also said he was possessed.
Well, but not possessed. That's being kind of like, okay, he's possessed. But he said he was possessed by Jabril, the angel Jabril, not a demon.
And
so
messengers.
Messenger. They believed that Jabril was the one that gave the message. Which brings you to this guy now that's going around saying that he is the way or whatever, but he's the new whatever.
The hadith.
And so but he's saying, he's like, I'm not saying that everybody should worship me. Now that is the one thing that the Antichrist will do. But there's different ways to worship. Does anybody really know what the definition of worship is? And this is important, Amy, because I know you were saying you really didn't believe, but what is the definition of worship? Look it up, Anthony.
Isn't it to give reverence?
Well, yeah. But what is the actual definition?
I think it's more like to beseech. Or it says the reverent love and devotion accorded a deity, an idol, or sacred object.
Mm-hmm.
Ardent admiration or love, adoration.
So do you see how easy it is to worship something and you don't even know you're doing it?
Yeah, really.
Yeah. I have a friend who was a drug dealer, and I'm not even joking. I didn't know. I was done with that long time ago. That life it's like another life for me. When I walked into his house, he had a room full of money. Full of money. And he offered me money to do this and that. And he wanted, because at that time I needed some help. He said, come by my house. I thought he was going to give me some work. You know, me and Scorpio were with me. I'm not going to say his name. But we walked in there and he was dealing some serious. I was like, oh, dude, I don't want to be here when that door gets kicked in.
Yeah.
Okay. And be like having to, because this happened to me before and I had to explain, I am not here for whatever that is. And the police were like, okay, how many times are they going to, you don't know. So I don't know what they're going to think or whatever. And I said, oh, dude, I thought you were done with all this crap. He goes, nah, man, I'm making big money, blah, blah, blah. I said, all that money is salted. And I said, dude, you need to worship God and not Mammon. And he goes, who's Mammon? And I'll just say his first name. First name is Mike, but he's a good friend of mine. And Anthony, you know him. Mm-hmm. And I said, Mammon is the god of money. And he goes, well, I don't worship money, but I love it. I said, you love it and you revere it. You give it reverence, but you also pay homage to it.
Yeah.
I said, you are worshiping a false god. This is a false god. And that money has so much blood on it, you don't even know what to do.
Right.
And he says, well, I didn't kill anybody. I said, yeah, but how many people did for that? How many people's lives are destroyed when you sell dope to someone? Mm-hmm. And they, even if your dope doesn't do it, what if down the line they take a hot dose and they die?
Yeah. Still culpable.
You're culpable for that. You participated in it, and it is part of the matrix, and that's what you're doing. You're helping pull, like Pink Floyd, another brick in the wall. Mm-hmm. Not one single raindrop thinks it's responsible for the flood. That's something to think about. Because everybody thinks, oh, I'm not responsible. I didn't make these people do this and that, but you're participating in it. And the acquisition of wealth is something. I have a family member. I love him dearly, but his whole life has been wealth building. Not in an illegal way, but think about people like Hathaway. You know what I'm talking about? Berkshire Hathaway. Mm-hmm. Do you know who runs that? Who owns Berkshire Hathaway? Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have a pretty good idea.
Yeah. Warren Buffett. He's the richest man on earth that we know of, single richest man. Warren Buffett, his whole life has been around, is consumed with building wealth. And he said when he dies, he's only going to give $10,000 to each one of his family members. And it's like, wow. This guy could give $1 million to like the whole earth who he really wanted to. This guy's super wealthy. I think Elon and him are two of the richest people on earth. They go back and forth. But it's crazy when you look at the wealth these people have accumulated. They could change the entire world if they really wanted to. And they do to a degree, but their whole goal in life is to acquire wealth. Now, what is it going to benefit you to be, have the riches of King Croesus when you die and you go to hell?
Yeah.
What is the point of that? Jesus says that you can inherit the whole world and still go to somewhere you don't want to be.
Lose your soul.
Yeah.
It's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I know people who worship their pets. I'm not kidding. I know a woman who gives her reverence and supplication to her pets like they are gods. And I told her, I said, I'm not going to say her name, but I said, she used to work for me. I said, you worship your pets. I said, some people worship their spouses. And one of the problems is I'll go to say, I love you. And I'm almost like saying I worship you because it's my mind telling me I'm too close to my wife. I know that sounds weird. And in a world where there's spousal abuse and there's all these things that happen with people, I love my family, but I don't pray to my family. The thing I do when I wake up and I'm alive and I'm another day on this earth, whether it's good or bad, I pray to God through Christ. And I remind myself and those around me that that is who I serve. That is who I worship. And I don't put too much into any one thing, because when that happens, you become a worshiper of idols.
100%.
You don't have to build a sculpture and bow down to it to be a worshiper of idols. I hate when people tell me, you're my idol. I don't want to be your idol. And I immediately correct them in a nice way. But I said, Jesus is your go-between to who you should be paying reverence to, which is God. And you should be paying reverence to them, the Holy Trinity, God, the Holy Spirit, and Christ. How many people do this? Do you say, praise be to the Holy Spirit? Most people don't do that. They don't. You should. Because God says very clearly that the Holy Spirit is all-encompassing, all-important, because that is his spirit. People don't do that. Instead of thinking anything other than, hey, I praise Jesus, I worship God, right? Praise be to the Holy Spirit of God. Do that. Say that. You will feel a power in you that you will never, ever get any other way. Through the name of Christ, through God, the true living God, and through supplication of the Holy Spirit, which is the true power of God. Those are the things you should be giving reference to, but it is all one thing.
Amen.
The small-mindedness of other religions when they say, oh, well, you're worshiping three things. I was like, they are all one and the same, but they are all different. Because they are different aspects of God.
Aspects.
They're like, well, that's like the Hindus. They have all these different gods, but there's all aspects of one God. I said, there's a million different aspects of the true one living God. But he tells us very specifically, it is the Holy Spirit. So how the confusion comes in, everybody has a different interpretation, but I know through trial and error what works. And if you studied other religions and you were able to, if you're one of those people that can read about it, learn it, take what you get from it, and not fall into the trap of, oh, well, this sounds great, I'm going to be a Mormon or a, whatever. I've read the book of knowledge. That doesn't make me want to go be a Jehovah's Witness. I can do that. I've read the Book of Mormon. That doesn't make me go become a Mormon. I was a voracious reader my whole life since I was a kid, and I would read and read and read. I'd spend hours in the library. My mother could tell you, my mom and dad could tell you. They would drop me out at the library. They'd go run errands, 3 or 4 hours. I'm still in there reading. My first time I ever read about another religion, I was 9. And it was a book about Buddhism. I put it under my bed. My mom found it and goes, what is this? And I was like, it's a book about Taoism. Like, why are you reading this? I said, because I want to know. She goes, well, you're going to know in hell. That's what you're going to know. And I was like, so be it. I was like, but my faith in God is strong enough that I'm not going to fall into the, I told her that. You want to answer that? Yeah. So I don't feel any sort of like spiritualness toward any other religion, but I do believe that they have pieces of a puzzle. And I do believe that we as Christians have had our birthright taken out from underneath us.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And we give supplication to people that shouldn't be. And some people that worship Israel. I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Now, somebody asked me about the Iran-Israel thing. I'm like, dude, I can't even tell you, dude, I am not down with Iran. That's for sure. They're a fanatical, dangerous regime. Very dangerous. And we don't know if Israel did the world a favor or if they started World War III. That's the scary thing. We don't know. There is no good or bad there. There is just one people you would say, oh, absolutely, they're a totalitarian regime. What about the other one? Well, they're God's people. Says who? Well, they do. Yeah, they do. And they've been saying that for a long time. Does that make it so?
Kind of like World War II.
How does that fit into the paradigm of us being God's people ourselves? How are we God's people if they are God's people when they reject Christ? And they have for a long time. I gently chide and sometimes argue with my Israeli friends. And I tell them, I said, look, I'm going to pray for you. And they go, pray to who? I said, well, I'm going to pray to the God of Christ. And they say, oh, no, I don't do that. No, don't do that, Wolf. Don't tell me that. Don't do it. I said, I'm going to do it because that's what's right. What they don't understand is I know their religion better than they do. Most of them can't even tell you. They don't even know. But they've been brought up to believe that. And a lot of Christians are the same way. You're brought up like Amy with CCD, catechism, which I did. I went through it. I was given a choice. And I decided to do it. Did I feel anything for it? Not really. But do I think and do I know that I can grow and God will lead me through it? He will take me through and take me to where I need to be. Yes. You know why? Because I have an anchor. And that's Jesus. This cross that I would wear, and I still wear it sometimes, it's got the anchor on there. The thing that they were calling the Leviathan pendant or whatever the hell it is. No. That anchor is very important to me because that is what anchors me to God. Christ is that anchor. And you should cling to him like driftwood in the ocean. If you were floating in the ocean or some large lake and you're just cast out there, you're going to find anything you can grasp to help you keep afloat. Jesus is that life raft. You let go of him, you're done. I promise you, your life will never be fulfilled. Like I said before, the best feeling on earth is to know that when you die, no matter how much suffering you're going through, is that you got a clear path to the Father.
Amen, buddy.
Christ. And that's the only way. I'm not trying to be preachy here, but I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Take it from a guy who's interviewed thousands of people who've told me I saw a demon and red eyes and fill in the blanks. And it never ceases to amaze me. Every time I talk to these people and they tell me these amazing things that happen, you're just like, dude, what the heck? How did you survive that? You know what? I called upon Christ.
It's like when I began praying to God finally, accepted Christ, began praying to God, and I had that red dragon appear in my mind's eye and tell me, I'll get you yet, and then fade away. So my conception, he is sitting there waiting for me to eventually die in this life.
Mm-hmm. So that is my belief. That's my situation. From absolute experience, I can tell you what works and what doesn't.
How many times do you think you've heard that where somebody said, I called on the name of Christ and the incident was instantly solved?
How many, just from the ones you've interviewed and ones you've talked to? Hundreds for you.
Yeah,
I was going to say it's hundreds, eh?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of any instances in which a witness called out to Christ in sincerity and it failed. Put it that way.
Hallelujah, buddy.
Yeah, and it's
That's awesome.
and it's funny because a few times that it's happened where I've heard it, that person wasn't even a Christian at the time. Either he was following a different religion or he wasn't religious at all. But the moment that he sincerely called on Christ, the incident that was going on just stopped.
Amazing.
Yeah, and Scorpion, you've been involved in interviewing a lot of people too. People send him stories too because they can't get a response from me because I got a lot of them. I got a lot of stuff going on. So I try to answer as many people as I can. If you send me a story, I don't answer you right away. Don't be frustrated, and all of you probably have. I answer as much as I can, but I can't do it all. And the thing is too, you got to understand something. We have 44,000 people on there and thousands of others on the podcast. So we get a lot of emails. And you got to remember, this is real. You see all these big numbers on these shows, 329,000. That ain't real. Those aren't real. When you're getting like 10,000 to 15,000 views on a show and you have 44,000 subscribers, that is big time because you're actually getting a third of your listeners are watching you or are your subscribers. Those are better numbers than most of YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
We know because we pay attention to what we're doing. So I would say a lot of these shows, and not all of them, but a lot of them, they don't have real numbers, man. I'm telling you, it doesn't add up. It does not add up. And we do. We have real people.
They use the green to get the views that they want.
Yeah, they buy them. Yeah. They
Yeah.
buy subs, they buy views, they buy likes, and even comments. And it turns your
And you
algorithms
can
into a
easily
mess.
tell that if you ever, and you can easily tell that if you ever go into their lives, because when you go to their lives, they have all these big old numbers, but very little people actually watching the live.
Yeah, do a live
Not
stream.
even a tenth of what they got.
I was just gonna say that you got 400,000 subscribers and 123 people on your live.
Yeah.
Yeah. Channels
Yeah,
10 times
ridiculous.
bigger than us will get like a half of our viewership during a live stream. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and you know, we can do sometimes on Sundays we get up to 800. I mean, it's not very often, but it happens.
Yeah.
You know, like once or twice a month.
You've
You
had
know,
600 people here at 3 a.m, bro.
Yeah. We've broken some numbers, and this is a Monday night. You know, you figured that it's what the Texas time. Amy, your Texas time, what is it? 10:48 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you know, you get these numbers, but the thing is, people, you know, real is real. I mean, real is real, and then there's just not real. And so you know, when you have those kind of, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be reaching out to you. And I only wish I had the time. I want to retire from my other job and do this, you know, eventually. And, you know, my ops are like, oh, yeah, you'll never be able to do that. The hell I won't. All I got is another 5 years and I'll be done. I'll be ready to do this full time. And this is going to be something I'm going to do till I'm gone. I don't want to go anywhere. I mean, I might have to take breaks or whatever. And I did want to quit, you know, last August. I did quit for 5 or 6 weeks, whatever it was. And it only came back because of what happened with Abe, because I had no intentions of coming back. I really didn't. I was happy. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to focus on my job, write the books, and get, you know, be done with it. And now I'm like, I'm putting the last stuff together for this book, but I really want this book to be correct. It has to be correct because the next one's going to be very pivotal. So me and Anthony talked, and we decided we're going to write a book together. And I'm writing another book with my brother, but my brother had to put it on hold because he had to go back to work. And my brother told me the other day, I felt terrible. He's just like, dude, I think we're never going to stop working. I said, I promise you at some point we will. It's not going to last forever. We're going to be able to quit. And because our job here is to help people. We really want people to learn. When Jesus says, my people die for lack of knowledge, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't start this channel for any other reason. That Armando kind of pushed me and was like, dude, you're born to do this. This is what you should do. You got this whole library of people's encounters, and we just went to work. You know,
And dude, you're such a good storyteller. Like you have everybody. Like honestly, you're the best modern day storyteller, bar none. And I am fluffing your pillow. Yeah, no, it is. It is a lost art. Exactly. You can just sit there and go for like 2 hours, and but the like you feel like you actually know the people and that you actually, I don't know, man. You just have a way about you. I'm not trying to, you know what I mean?
No, I know you, Dick. You're a smart mouth too. You'll tell me some shit if you want.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys have heard he knows how to do a lot of sounds too, and he can do voices as well. So if he really wanted to get into storytelling and try and get you really into the story, he could do that. Yeah, too. I can imitate the way he just reads and orates other people's stories from the way they told him. It's entertaining as hell and informative too.
Hey, Scorp, you're coming in like real bad, bro. Let's hang up and then get back on.
Yeah, and if you have your Wi-Fi on your phone, maybe try turning it off because it might be trying to use like a really weak Wi-Fi signal. That could be a problem too.
See, you're weak.
That too.
Anthony's calling you weak.
My Wi-Fi is off, so if I do go outside, it doesn't turn off when I go outside.
There we go. So I think Scorp, you and Anthony need to box it out, man. I think he's challenging you. He's calling you weak, bro. But he liked to kill Tony at the gym last night. Let me look.
Who? Oh, me?
You were working out. I saw Tony. Tony was like, I mean, at one point when y'all were doing that last thing with the biceps, he was standing there looking straight ahead, like shell shocked. Like he was. I heard you getting on to him. You were like, dude, you want those arms?
That was encouragement, believe it or not.
Yeah, you were trying to get on it, dude. I was over there lifting. I was laughing. I was like, this dude's about to be.
It was only because I knew that he had it in him, but he didn't know. So I was like, well, you're about to know because I see it and you don't.
Well, he better start eating.
Yeah.
This guy, you know what he does? He'll go and buy a bunch of food and not eat it. That's so frustrating.
Yeah.
He will buy like 2 double cheeseburgers, not like McDonald's. I'm talking about like big ones or whatever. He eat like half of one.
Oh, come
What do you
on,
do?
man. You got to get your protein in every day.
He's got to eat, dude. Like he'll buy food and not eat, or we'll get like this Thai place we like to get. And he'll get an entree and then he'll get one for later, but he won't even finish the first one. I said, you got to make yourself do it.
Bro, I had 5 burger patties for dinner.
If you need the protein, man, if you're working out, you're lifting, like he was lifting like a madman yesterday. And I said, how is this going to work if you're not going to work out? I mean, if you're going to work out and not lift.
It's like trying to fly a jet with no jet fuel.
Oh man, I'm telling you. I told him, I said, dude, it's very important that you get yourself, in the gym. And I kept telling him, but I said, but it's not only that, but you don't like to eat. Work is calling me. Hold on.
It's all good. Unfortunately, I had to shoot off. So take care, everyone. God bless all of you. Have a good rest of the week, okay?
Hey, have a good
Take
night.
care, everyone.
Truck was on fire.
Oh,
Take
God.
a look at this. Look at this. Tell me what that is.
Crimey. That sucks.
Yeah. All right, man. I'll see you under fire.
Hey, take care.
Yeah, you too. So a person came on. Ellie Leonard says this chat room is weird.
Oh, you have no idea.
It's a he or a she. It's like a she. Well, YouTube won't let me chat. You're chatting right now. What are you talking about?
I don't think they were trying to insult the nature of the chat room. I think they were talking about like their chat's not going through or whatever. So they couldn't figure out how it worked.
YouTube.
But we've seen
auto
every one of your
censors.
chats, Ellie Leonard.
We're seeing it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that YouTube auto censors as well, because I get a lot of my comments not going through.
Yeah.
Sailor Nips. This isn't even close to how weird it gets.
Yeah.
Because
Amazing.
when we're here on Mondays and we have enemies in our presence, they come and they're like, "We need to find out a way to get to this guy." You're not. It's never going to happen. Okay, Roadrunner, Coyote. I've said this before. Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd. Not going to happen. But you can keep trying. Whatever you want to do, Doc. But the chat gets weird. We talk about all kinds of stuff on here, and that's what people like about it. That's why Mondays is here for us, because I was just going to do the Patreon, but the Patreon, you get all kinds of good stuff for Patreon. But I don't want to count people out. I don't want to cut people out. I know that at some point we are going to have to go to a paywall. I don't want to do that. I wish we could make enough money to not do that, but I don't see how we can do it. Because my goal is I don't want to do security forever. The other night just spoke to me volumes when the police came and they're haranguing us and not arresting those guys.
Yeah.
I had a long talk with my dad about that.
Pretty useless.
Me and my dad have been talking a lot lately, and thank goodness it was Father's Day. And I just told him, I said, Dad, I think I'm done. I can't do this anymore. This world is not for us. It is just not for decent people. This world has become more evil by the day, by the minute.
Amen, brother.
And the police are now being kind of told to help these people. And while those guys sat there laughing at us and eating chips, they're over there, do you want to press charges on them? And they're like, yeah, man, yeah. I'm like, really, dude? Because how are you hurt?
Yeah.
How are you hurt? What did this is insane. And I had to chastise these cops. And I said, look, man, I said, if you're not going to arrest me, give me my damn ID back. Give me my shit back and I'm going. All right. We're trying to help you. So no, you're not. I said, no, you're absolutely not helping us. You want to help do the right thing, arrest these guys. They were on our property and they were trespassing. And so Tony issued them criminal trespass, whatever. Yeah, great. So what? But they're still going to come back and they're going to do what they want and you're going to defend them. And the guy's like, well, I've taken a report from them before. I said, because they've complained before, huh? So they have a pattern of starting shit and then they call you. And then you support them. I said, so good luck with that. I said, I've always been a supporter of the police. I said, but I'm not going to be abused. Okay. And I told him straight up too, man. I said, look, man, I've lived all kinds of things in my life. How old are you? I told this one guy, he was in his 20s, 29, whatever. I said, I'm 20 years older than you. You don't read to me the Riot Act. Okay. This is ridiculous. I was like, and what you're doing is ridiculous. And if you are supporting this system, then you're a part of the problem. And I was like, I'm done. And I said, give me my ID. I'm leaving. Give me my IDs or arrest me. We're not arresting anybody right now. Oh, yeah, sure you're not. You're going to kick it up to a detective. And then I got to explain to him what these guys did and how you didn't do anything. This is a nightmare. I said, don't worry. We won't call you next time to help. We're just going to ignore the problem. You know, because that's what we're going to do. Is what everybody's doing, ignoring the cancer and letting it eat everything out.
Mm-hmm.
Upside down and backwards is Satan's fingerprints all over everything, man.
Another thing, too, the no kings thing. I want to say something about that. Where was all this outrage when 47 executive orders were issued at the very beginning of Biden's administration in 2 days? There was no outcry, no kings, whatever. 47 executive orders, folks. Don't tell me it didn't happen, because it did. And he immediately crushed. One of the things that did, too, he stopped the subsidizing of government housing to help underprivileged people. That was a program that this current president had put into place. And the day that Biden took over, he got rid of it. Tell me how that is okay. I know, because it directly affected us. That's why I know about it, because we did security for them. It was helping people. The Democrats at one time were the party for the people back when JFK was there. What was that? Somebody screamed. Just heard a scream out there. But I think when he was, don't even go out there.
Are you guys on the ground floor?
No.
Okay.
Thank God. I would never do that. So whenever they murdered JFK, that was the end. That was the signal of the death of the party for the people. Hasn't been since. And there's a slow hijacking of our rights and everything else. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a Republican by whatever. Bush was, him and Cheney were awful. I honestly thought it couldn't get any worse until Biden came. He was the dumbest guy. And then you start realizing what they did to him amounted to elder abuse.
Absolutely.
They did.
Absolutely.
They used that guy.
everything.
He wasn't in charge. And then they're like, Obama was in charge. I'm like, I said, Obama wasn't in charge when Obama was in charge. Are you kidding me? Big Mike had more control than he did. I was like, dude, he was just up there. Oh, let me read off of whatever the heck they're telling me to read off of. That's all he did. He just talked good, and that was it. He wasn't in charge. Who do you think was in charge?
I could tell you which tribe was in charge.
There's a cabal. There's a cabal, and they're still in charge, and they'll be in charge. And now we're going to go to war. But then again, who knows?
Yeah,
Because
that's a
the
hell of a
country-
situation.
Yeah, certain countries shouldn't be having nuclear capabilities, period. When you have an Islamic regime that's like that, the sad thing is, you don't realize like how much bad the supposed good guys have done. They're horrible. The good guys are not good guys in any war that's been since forever. You're just listening to their side after they won.
Good guys don't firebomb cities with 1,000 bombers in the sky at one time.
No. Yep, and Squid and Whitcam says the deep state is always in charge. The cabal, Liz says the cabal want war and chaos. Just look at the world. Yes, and they're getting it. They're getting what they want, folks. What you have to do is find the true God,
Amen.
which is only found through Christ. I'm telling you, that is the way. Because all of these things that happen to people, like you're wearing the shirt right now, Amy's got it on. You can see the different. Here's a version of it right here. There's a different version of it, but you see the different creatures on there. Those are the things you're going to run into.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it's going to get worse. Orem, who's been sick, he's just say a prayer for him. Marzulli's son-in-law, a good friend of mine. But he was talking about it. He says, dude, one day these people are going to have to wake up to the reality of the monsters that are going to be in the street. You're not even prepared for the human ones. Men's hearts will fail them. It's going to happen.
They're really trying hard to open those borders, aren't they? Or
Yeah.
not the borders, but the
Portals.
portals. Yeah, like really hard.
And then you look at what's happening in these national parks, state parks. Those are testing grounds, folks. I wouldn't go and stay in those things for nothing.
Yeah, for
You don't know
real.
how many stories we get out of those things. They go, oh, I was in the national park, I was in the state. Oh, yeah. No, me and Anthony were talking to a guy the other day. He's telling us all this crazy stuff. And he's like, where were you? What did he say? Right over here, state park.
Mm-hmm.
McKinney Falls State Park. I said, oh, yeah.
It's the same with the provincial parks here. The provincial park beside me is called the Devil's Glen. I know.
They're basically
That's where-
telling you.
Yeah.
That's where the
Do you
devil's
know
at.
the main road into that is called Cerberus Run? I swear you can't even make this crap up.
Devil's Den, Hell's
I know.
Gate, all
I
this
know.
other,
Just
yeah.
making it
Yeah.
obvious.
The
Pretty
Devil's
obvious.
Backbone here in Texas.
Devil's Backbone. So we got King Groove here. Let's see what King Groove. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, Josh?
What's going on, brother?
I just want to say, like Megatron told Starscream, I still function.
He's like going to bed.
Yeah.
He throws him out of the spacecraft.
I love that part.
Yeah, they're on Astro Train.
Yeah. Jettison some weight.
We'll never make it to Cybertron. He's like, survival of the fittest.
For
And
real.
he's like, all those in favor, the healthy ones, yay!
Yeah.
And those against, and all the beat up ones, nay. Like exactly, it's the haves and the have-nots always.
How the hell did Starscream end up being king of the Decepticons? Like, he probably just sat back and let everybody else wear each other out, and he was like, okay, who else wants to fight? Y'all already messed up and beat up and shit, so.
I think nobody else wanted it. He
It
was the
didn't
only one
last
who was
very
fired.
long because Galvatron came and
Right.
incinerated him.
Yeah.
And then he became a ghost in the new cartoon with
Yeah.
Octane. Remember that episode?
Uh-huh.
Hey, I do. Yes.
Yeah, I remember the whole.
I
Because
remember
I read
that-
the
I remember that
IDWs.
episode
too.
too.
Yeah,
Got a whole coronation going.
yeah. The IDWs go deep. They go hard in the paint. You read about this. Transformers were brutal, dude, in the IDW.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah,
just
man.
blowing each other to hell all the time, man. The GI Joe was pretty brutal too. It wasn't like the cartoon. They were actually like that. People would die. Like
Yeah, the G.I. Joe comics were great.
Mm-hmm.
Were
Yeah,
friggin' great. Yeah.
The Marvel ones were kind of PC, whatever, but the IDW, man, and then the Alien Predator. Now, Amy, you were talking about liking aliens. What kind of aliens did you like?
Oh, I guess the ones that are the grays. Is that what's being
You
drawn?
like
It's
these things?
they're dumb, right? But I didn't know what I liked. They were just cute, they would just draw them cute. And I thought, I love aliens. Like, yeah, I believe,
So you like the biological robots, basically.
Yeah.
They are. Oh, we got Chato in the house too. What's up, Chato? How you doing? So the biological robots that come and they take
Yeah.
things from you.
They would draw them and be like, we come in peace, or like
Hey,
they would
what's
always
up,
be
brother?
behind the peace sign,
We come in peace and you'll go
Yeah.
in pieces.
Maybe you
The
like,
ones
like
that
the idea of those aliens or something, but
Yeah.
not them.
Yeah. And then
The
I was I think it's a fad, honestly. It was very popular. There was alien things like at, Claire's or whatever, and that's where I would get a lot of the stuff. And
Well, in
yeah.
the late 90s, like the X-Files really put aliens on the map.
They did.
yeah.
My uncle was in one of those episodes for X-Files.
Really?
Yeah, he played a drug dealer in there.
He played a drug dealer.
Yeah, he
Nice.
passed away, man. God rest his soul. But he was
It's
in
one
one
of the
of
only
those.
times they get a Mexican, they're like, hey, man, we need somebody to work
Yeah.
on garden or do drugs.
Yeah.
Can you do
Yeah,
those?
he was in the show Weeds too.
This freaking racist crap. Why do I gotta do that?
Yeah, he came out in No Country for Old Men. He was the guy in the truck. The Agua.
Oh, wow.
That's my uncle. Yeah, that was the same guy.
Damn.
That like in Blood In, Blood Out, somebody told me I look like Magic. You know, the Hispanic dude.
A little bit.
He
Yeah,
goes,
somebody
"Don't
like,
make-"
you look like those suckers like Spider. I'm the boogeyman. That's it. I was like, I've seen something very similar to that when somebody was chatting up to me about some gangster, and I'm like, oh, really? Because that dude's nothing to me, dude.
That's funny.
I'll call him up right now and call him a bitch, and then what's he gonna do? You know, like, when somebody's talking about that guy's a badass, he's a badass to you. And it's different though, man. People always say that. They're like, it's different in a joint. Yeah, you be locked up with people.
So let me ask you. No, Josh, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Would you threaten Big Al over a pork chop?
Probably. do the questions really fast, just like machine gun fire. You ever done that with people? You just ask them questions real fast. Megatron or Starscream? Megatron or Optimus Prime? You know what I mean? Like that.
Right.
Pork chop or fried steak? Just real quick. He's like, I see a little bit of sunlight back there. What is? Coming out of
sunshine down all that darkness.
All that darkness. Yeah. And he's like, "Come on, Al, just give me my chop."
You know what I'm saying? Like for real.
Well, all that crap is the reason why things are the way they are, because they had this system. That's what I was talking about earlier with what's his name, Harpin Blues. Is that's called systemic racism. That was pervasive in our society at one time. If you watch that movie Sinners, they touch on it. The whole movie's not about that.
No,
but they did explain, like, it's like you're doing business in the South and you're black in the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is going to happen? Because that's why he was like, I don't want these white people in my club. He wasn't against them being white. He just like, if they come in here and something happens to them,
all of us are going.
These black dudes getting drunk or whatever, and they might get kind of feisty and try to, step on their shoes or something. They run off and tell everybody, hey, this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see Lawless, the beginning scene when they went to go sell their moonshine at that black club? You remember that part?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty interesting that it was local. Whites from that town were pissed off. They weren't making no money off the blacks. And they had the brothers, they had good relations with the people at the black club. They're making money with them.
Yeah.
And the Billies didn't like that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, money doesn't know color, man. And that's something I learned a long time ago, and it was like, and it really aggravated me because I put together and it wasn't by design, but I needed different arms. I needed different facets. I needed different types of people to deal with different types of people. And so in my clique, I had different types of people. I had black, Arab, Hispanic, Pete was Jewish, but very stereotypical too. Like Pete was the accountant. It's like, dude, I wasn't trying to be, but it just kind of was that way, And I said, look, this is what we got going on here. And we had a Hispanic clique, and then we had a bunch of big white boys, and that was it. That was how it was. And we had this black club down the road, and they worked with us very closely. They were the first ones I fought. The first group I fought with were blacks. Now, that wasn't completely not by design, because I had to, because their leader, I needed their support, and they were never going to support me if I didn't whip the shit out of their leader.
Damn.
But then I told them, and afterwards I said, look, let's be friends. Then the next fights were against two different groups of Hispanics, and then the next fights were against the Asians. I wasn't picking out groups and going, let's go after them because they're ethnic. They had something I needed or I wanted. That's why. And it was like step by step by step. And then, because, Alexander did that, and he incorporated them into his military. And eventually you have what you need. You have all the apparatuses in place. And then the stupid ass TV comes up with these shows where there's all these interracial gangs running around. That bullshit. That was the only one that I ever saw or knew.
The gangs are all interracial and
everybody's just getting along.
Intergender.
Yeah, all the gangs in BC were all ethnic. Like it was.
We were the only one that wasn't, and it pisses me off because it trivializes what we were able to accomplish. And I say we because it was me, my brother, and a few of our friends, and they were, there were some people we dealt with in the beginning, these big white boys, and they were like, no, we don't want to deal with the blacks. We want to deal with the Mexicans. And I told them this. I sat them down and said, you're tough. You're some of the toughest guys I know. I said, but you're white. Look around you, brother. Do you not see the writing on the wall? There's about 5 or 6 of you. You throw me in there, and I'm me and my brother, a couple of half-breeds, help you out a little bit. There's still like 7 or 8 of us. We need the blacks. We need the Mexicans. We need the Asians. You need to understand you are surrounded See, because
So-
down there, you are not the majority. That's the
So
problem.
let me ask you this: would Amy be a member of the Lizzies from the Warriors?
I don't know. Amy, how old are
Does
you?
she
You
have a
probably don't even know
switchblade
what
in her
the Warriors
pocket
are.
right now? If she does, then she might be.
There you go.
I think she said she was 41 earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, see, and Abracadabra says Lucky Luciano did that with the mafia, made it mixed because he was dealing with blacks and Jews. People were like, blacks and Jews, whatever. Doesn't matter, dude. You want to survive? You better learn to get along.
Yeah, it's just like
Here's what I did
like you
know.
said, money doesn't know color because
No.
money has its own color.
Scorpion, you were one of my guys from back in the day. Now, being honest, tell the whole crowd, don't lie. The stories you heard of me, what was your first opinion? Be honest. When you first met
I didn't think I thought they were exaggerated. I believed that you were a tough guy, that you knew how to fight, but I didn't believe that it was to the extent that they said until I actually saw it.
He's from a Mexican hood called Montopolis. And in
Mexican black
Montopolis,
mix.
there are some really tough kids over there in Montopolis. Those guys were not gonna, they don't give a shit who you are or what you say. You're just a huelillo to them, or you're just a white boy. They don't care. They look at you and they see your placa and they're like, you're just a white boy.
My brother, my two brothers, and then my two cousins were there, and then like some random white guy. He just showed up. We were drinking at the golf course, and then we had 30 back. Yeah, and this dude pulled up with a bottle, and they were getting ready. They were getting ready to jump him, and I was like, "Hey, chill out. This dude has a bottle, bro. We could get more drunk, you know." Yeah, we were drinking, bro. We were done with the alcohol, and the guy's all like, "Yeah." He's all like, "No." He's all like, "Hey, man, I just came from a party, bro. Like, we should go check it out." We went back, and the house was completely dark. Like, nobody was partying. And I was like, "Hey, we're in somebody's yard right now." It was like in the country club area too.
Whoa.
Up by Thunderbird in El Paso on the west side. And
West El Paso is kind of where the pinky up people.
Yeah, not really. Like
Coronado, that's where the school. That's where all the.
I got kicked out of that high school, bro.
Did you really? Because you were too Mexican.
For fighting. Yeah.
They told you to go to Riverside. They go, get out of here. Go to Riverside.
I was from Segundo Barrio, from the second ward, like from Chuco town, like where the whole Chuco shit started, like the suit stuff. Started right there in El Paso, in the Segundo Barrio.
Oh shit! You said Chuco town?
Yeah, Chuco. Yeah.
Hey, did you see that guy that was on Cops that was repping Chuco town in the convenience store? He was pouring soy sauce on the hot fries. Remember that?
The chicken wing bandit.
Nah, he was bald headed. He looked like.
But there's another cops from El Paso. There's a guy. He got caught with chicken wings. Like his wife called the cops on him because he kept running away with the dinner money. And like that guy's from the hood when I moved to the west side. So my mom brought us away from the second ward to the west side to supposedly get away from gang violence, and it was worse over there. But yeah, like the guy that's on the El Paso cops, the chicken wing bandit. Just look it up on YouTube. No, that's like one of my rivals, like kid brothers. Like I kicked that dude's like older brother's ass.
No shit.
Yeah, like right there, right there. Where I was telling you that story about the house. So like his older brother was varsity, and like all the other guys that pulled up, 2 cars pulled up. So I was like, hey, we need to get out of here, bro. I wouldn't like it if somebody was standing in my front yard, you know, like a bunch of guys I didn't know. And they were like, all right, so yeah, you're right. We turned around, started walking back towards our car, and that's when they pulled in. But yeah, long story short, like the guy that was there, the guy that brought us there, him and his homie broke that dude's windows back in the day. But like the dude's homie died. So like, but he took us over there, dude. They smashed like a giant Guinness mug on this dude's head, and then like,
I don't know.
El Paso is very violent.
Yeah,
you talk about the Pachucos, man.
But yeah, like it smashed it over. It turned this huge brawl. It was like 6 versus 7, dude. I was just running around hitting people. Just one, like I knocked everybody down at least once on that other side.
Right there.
And the guy that lived there brought out a hockey stick, and I took it away from him, and my brother still has it in the closet. It's pretty cool.
Sounds like the Warriors.
Yeah, but
I find it funny. I find it funny you call it Chuco Town. I dated 2 girls back to back from El Paso, and one of them she called it
They're
Chuco
crazy,
Town.
bro.
The other one couldn't stand when I called it Chuco Town, or they couldn't stand anybody else calling it Chuco Town. He goes, no, it's El Paso, not
You're talking
Chuco
about these
Town.
people that try to get us to eat Chico's tacos, man. And I was like, what is this soup?
Oh man, I don't. That shit doesn't fit
Taco
right with
soup,
anybody, man.
That was actually, I thought it was pretty good.
Why would you? I didn't like it at all, man. I was like,
You
what
can
is
drink a
this, man?
taco
It's
like Fluffy said, bro.
It's like
This is the
tortilla
first time you could drink a taco.
Yeah, Fluffy said that. Yeah.
I don't like it, dude. I don't like
What the
it.
heck is that?
The Chico's tacos?
Yeah.
It's nasty, bro. I don't like it, man. They brought it out. It was like in a little, like one of those little, like
That, sir, is an opinionated
Unless you're really drunk, bro. Unless you're really drunk, it tastes good.
Yeah,
But, like, when
anything
everything tastes good when you're drunk,
tastes
you know?
good. Yeah, that's right. You don't need sauce if you got that. You got alcohol. And so you
But
pour
yeah,
it
it's
on
right
there,
next to the graveyard, the original. There's like several Chico's Tacos now. The original one's next to the graveyard by Thomas Hospital.
Yeah, I remember
So I grew up in also like in Sherman. It's right there off of Paisano Street, right by Thomas Hospital, right there, kind of the same area as Chico's Tacos.
Now, it may be me, but I remember going and watching back when they had the Diablos. I watched them play.
The Diablos. Now it's the Chihuahuas, man.
Chihuahuas, man. I got the hats for both of them.
Yeah.
But I watched them play some team from Plainview, not Plainview, Hempstead. They were playing some minor
Yeah,
league
I was with you with that. I was with you on that.
yeah,
one.
and they beat them. The Diablos clobbered them, but it was a fun time, whatever. But there's not a lot to do in El Paso. But I've heard though that in the '90s the hoods they're all over the place. It's not like it used to be where it was like in the west it was a little calmer, and on the east it was bad. But now it's like all of it is bad.
Yeah, you got all the Edgars running around, bro.
Yeah.
Just wreaking havoc, just bumping Peso Pluma, bro, all over El Paso.
You know
Yeah,
what's
bro.
funny? Let me tell you though, folks. I'm going to tell the audience so they understand. Okay, at Pachuco, okay, where's Stacey Adams and puts tres flores in their hair
And shoulder pads, bro.
shoulder pads. Yeah, let me tell you something, man. That's a Pachuco, man. People don't understand that they wear like a zoot suit, you know, and the suspenders.
Yeah,
And
like
then-
just a picture that like how the Mask was dressed in the movie The Mask when he's dancing with
Yeah.
Cameron Diaz. That's a zoot suit.
And then
Yeah,
in
mixed
their off
up with
time-
Zorro.
Yeah, this was
Yeah,
Zorro.
the fedora is just over exaggerated. Yeah, the fedora.
Think of like what Zorro wore, like you know, it's like a ball of masquerade. It's like masquerading because when they're in the hood in the barrio, they're wearing like a white shirt with Dickies, bro. For real.
Yeah.
That's what you wear, and then when you go out, you're like, hey man, I look good, you know, like you gotta look.
It's outside locals.
But yeah,
when I was young, bro, and then they all it just turned into Segundo Barrio, like puro segundote, and then now it's like I don't know what it is. Like it's like they changed it. They demolished most of it. I remember most people were protesting to keep their cockroach infested buildings. That shit was miserable. But I'm not talking shit on my hood, but like, hey, that shit needed to go away so something better could come. And then after they built all the new units and houses and stuff, and nobody was complaining, you know, everybody. And then violence was so bad that like El Paso actually had like they had like this initiative where they relocated like all the gangs, like everybody that was like, it just relocated everybody all over the place. Like they knocked down all the old projects and they built new ones, and then they kind of just spread everybody. So for a little bit, things got really violent there.
Well, in Juarez across the border, you guys.
Yeah. At one point, we were like the number one safest city in the United States, right next to the most violent city
place
in the world.
With death toll, I'm telling you, this is the truth. Body counts as high as Iraq.
More, dude. More than Iraq.
Talking about Chicago, everybody's
and those
like,
are the ones that
Chirac.
they know about, bro. They're digging up all the fossas, all the pits with all the remains, and they're finding it's like more shoes than the Holocaust, dude. Like they said, they already counted more shoes than the Holocaust. You know how they had pictures with all the shoes? They had all where they had
Pictures.
like the soup factories, man, where they stick people in barrels and stuff, and like the caustic soda was taught by the Israelites to.
And you know there is a story that I need to do. We need to do that one.
Sounds like they have a lot of peaceful protests over there in Juarez.
Peaceful protest.
Oh no, you're not gonna protest there, bro. You're just gonna pay everything that's in your pocket, and you're gonna keep doing that every month or every week or however many times they tell you. or you're gonna be in serious trouble.
Yeah. And they hung those dudes from the bridge, right there on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was so common that it just stopped making the news. Like, things got so out of hand over there that it just stopped making the news. Like, things are so bad right now too that it just doesn't make the news anymore.
Yeah, it's gotten bad everywhere. That's why I tell people about Austin, they're lying. And according to what I read, I think it was in Texas Monthly, but I know that the newspaper kind of glossed over it. And they said here in Austin, this was a few years ago, they said downtown Austin now most dangerous place in Texas. And you think, how can that be in Austin? Austin's so good, peaceful, whatever. Bullshit. They're lying. They're lying because I work in downtown Austin all the time. I'll probably go there later tonight.
Downtown Austin
You go
right now.
first, how dangerous it is. Oh, by the way, you need to get this flashlight, dude. The Philips. This thing just makes it daytime, like anywhere that you aim it at.
Yeah, we have the stingers for that.
Yeah,
those are nice.
I have the. It came with yeah, right here. The thing that like the fire starter or whatever.
Well, you know, they tried to argue with me about this. They tried to say that Austin downtown was only worse than all the other downtowns.
Mhm.
I said, that's still not good.
Yeah.
That's still not
You
something to
guys
be.
have it downtown, bro. You ever drive through those ghost towns all over Texas, brother? Nobody living there. Like at least, nah, I believe there's zero crime there. You know, that's the only place.
Like, what is
Yeah,
it called?
bro.
Shipwreck?
Nobody gives a fuck because nobody's voting there, though. So
Yeah.
it's just forgotten. Excuse
You
my
go to
language.
those places and there's like, I had a story that a guy gave me, and I don't want to get into the whole thing, but I'll give you the gist of it. And it happened in Juarez. He was taken a hostage by these guys and by a coke mule. And they told his friend, you better come back with the drugs or we're going to do something to this guy. And he swears up and down, he told all of us that they were vampires.
Oh shit!
He said they were vampires. He goes, they slept all day. One of them would be out watching him. Only that one guy. The rest of them would sleep, and then they'd come out at night.
Oh yeah.
And he witnessed them drinking blood.
Amazing.
It's a crazy story. Like, I haven't gone into it yet, but he was going to tell me because he wanted me to talk to his brother who knew more about it too. But I haven't had a chance to talk to him. That's why I haven't done it yet. But I wanted to tell that encounter. But he was terrified to show his face.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Hey, we saw. You know how I told you the story about the roadkill a while
Mhm.
back. That weird. I believe it's a Wendigo or something. Because deer don't have thumbs, or deer don't have thumbs, bro.
No.
So like,
Not
anyway,
like that.
we're driving. I was driving we were working in Aztec, New Mexico, and driving on the way back, we saw this massive like dog, like this beast. Like it kind of looked like a pit bull, but it had spots all over it. But it had a massive neck, like kind of like a hyena. Like you know how you said there's people saying they saw hyenas over there.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling one of my coworkers yesterday about your channel and stuff, and I was like, hey, we saw this weird ass dog. And then he's like, you know what, bro, like I'm just gonna stop you right there because we saw two of those. They were like dogs, but they were just massive, like overly proportioned, like beasts. He's like, and I was like, well, what did it look like? I didn't even say it. He's like, it kind of like hyenas. He's like, that's it, man, I don't even know. Like, he's like, I kind of believe what you're telling me because I was like, there's just no explanation for that. And then also, so that when we saw that dog, it was eating a horse, and then all the other horses were all bunched up in one of the corners, like in the pen.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was like, and my homie's like, that's the farmer's dog, and I was like, no, it's not, because if that was a farmer's dog, like the horses wouldn't be scared of it, you know.
Chado, while I got you on here, get with me. Send me your message through Messenger. Are you on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, message me on Facebook. Do you have me on Facebook?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, and we get together and record because the pod people would love to hear your stories too. I say the pod people because they're on the podcast. They're like, I listen to the podcast. I don't do the tube of you. I'm like, okay, fine. You're missing most of the show, but that's whatever. But they think that they're all chicante about it too. Like, hey, I don't listen to that. That's weird. I don't know what that means. But
I have YouTube Premium. Like, it's way better. Well, I have both, like Spotify Premium and YouTube, but I love YouTube more because there's.
Yeah, you get the more of an immersive experience.
Yeah.
You get to see how big my head is. But I got big shoulders, though. I got very massive shoulders, so it fits on my head.
I have body
And I got big
dysmorphia,
legs, too.
I
These
think.
guys talking about, look, he skips leg day. No, I don't. Liars. Dude, my wife's like, take a picture of your calves. I'm like, I don't need to get these guys a thrill over there. They're in Oklahoma. Oh, yeah, now he's showing his calves. They might want to come down and eat me. I don't want that.
Damn.
Group says, damn.
I remember what the drill sergeant said about the only thing in Oklahoma, steers, and you know what else.
Yeah, exactly.
Texas, bro, Full Metal Jacket. That was the drill.
There's Texas, but Oklahoma is just as bad. If you look at when he says they don't stack shit that high, well, they do.
That's right. That's right.
It is right there.
Are you trying to squeeze an inch in on me somewhere?
Right, snowball.
Snowball.
Damn.
Yeah, bro.
Oh, well, guys, hey,
Yeah.
I got to run, man. It's been great, dude. You guys come back next Monday and we can do this again, definitely. And tomorrow night, we're going to try and get a recording in so we can get a show out. If it doesn't come out tomorrow, it'll be on Thursday, but it's going to be about weird experiences that people have had downtown with something that some people think are vampires and other people say they're zombies. I don't know. I did visit an area recently where my friend R. Ash had said he claimed to have seen a man-like, wolf-like creature eating a person.
That's crazy.
Down at Ditmar, yeah. So we went through there the other night, and I believe was it you, Scorp? No, was it you? You were with me. It was you and Tony. One of y'all said, "Look," because you thought you saw something moving in the woods, but there was not. It was so thick. The woods are so you can't see through it. And the same thing with Apache Pass, man. We were driving through that thickness, and we were like, "What is that?" There was something you couldn't see what it was, but it was there. And then it jumped down, whatever it was, down into the embankment, but you can't get to it. The woods are so thick. I'm going to drive around the area of Austin, and I'm going to show you guys just how thick these woods are. You're going to be shocked at how much, how do I say, how heavily wooded it is over here. Because El Paso is a whole different, that's a high desert. There's nothing like that over here.
No.
But
I was thinking more Bragg, North Carolina, though, right there. There's some areas. I was during some certain training exercises that are so thick that the instructors warned us not to go in there, and some of the guys were like, "Yeah, whatever," and they fucking went down there, and then because we start at night, and you land out in the day. And
were you at Fort Bliss?
Nah, hell no. I joined the Army to get out of El Paso.
You don't have a choice though, bro. You go to Benning, right? Did you do your
tree goes there? Yeah.
Yeah, you went to Benning.
Yeah, all infantry.
Yeah. And then if you go to jump school, you'll do Benning too. But then after that, then they'll send you somewhere, and you might end up in Leonardwood, or you might end up in Fort Sill. You don't know where you might end up. Or
I got lucky where I kind of always got to pick where I wanted to go.
Well, you're lucky then.
Yeah.
Most poor bastards just get sent wherever they send you.
Yeah, just
the first thing they're going to tell you when you go to Benning is that there's all these different kinds of dogs here that'll eat you and snakes that'll bite you.
They just tell you that. They just say that to the privates. Yeah. But there have been a few soldiers that got gored. Like somebody got hit in the femoral once by a hog. So
yeah, it's bad.
I mean, bro, like I think they kind of know where to fuck us up. In reality, like I guess they've been doing it for so long, it's encoded into their DNA. They just naturally know where to.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Certain species.
They can do it so easily too. It's just like so quick.
So quick.
And then that's it. You're done.
One of our friends got gored real bad.
The weight with the speed and like the point will just cut through anything.
Well, guys, I got to run. Amy, thank you for coming on. If you got more stuff you want to talk about, we can record too. I'd like to. If you get in touch with me, message me through Messenger if you have me on Facebook, or you can email me. Let me send the email address at the bottom of the screen here.
Sure.
Yep. Josh Turner, PRTpodcast.com. Josh Turner at PRTpodcast.com. You guys send me your stories, send me your encounters, and I can never get enough of them, you know? And one thing always leads to another. I know some of you guys have sent me stories, and then you tell me somebody else you know, and then you go to them, and another person just keeps going. Because this is the real reality, folks. I tell you this all the time, and people think I'm joking. And I do I am a person that studies the human condition, and I like to study. This is very much a part of it. People like to say, "Well, this is what happens to weird people." No, it happens to people that are paying attention. A lot of people that don't pay attention, they're like these automatons.
Everywhere you look, everyone points to Christ. Like, hey, that's the one. He's the one right there. Everybody will tell you. It doesn't matter where you turn to, what type of research you do. Like, everybody will tell you Christ is the only way. And yeah, don't forget to pray the blood of Christ over yourselves.
Plead the blood of Christ over your pets, even
your home,
Amen,
people, everything.
Amen.
So let me ask you guys on the panel and the people in the audience before we bounce here. On Wednesday, we got a choice. We got a couple different things we can talk about. I've been debating about what we're going to do. We have this the tracker from the Ozarks, Rudy. We have his stories now. We can do his on Wednesday, or we can talk about vampires again, or we can talk about Bigfoot. But what do you guys want? Because we have 3 or 4 different subjects.
The Shiva monster.
Oh, yes, that's what you wanted to. You've been up my butt about that, dude. You're just like, dude,
I just asked him.
You got to tie that to CERN.
Yeah, it is. It probably is tied to CERN. We could do that one. Let's take a vote.
Do you know the statue at CERN is actually Kali killing Shiva? Because Kali wears the crown and Shiva is underfoot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Shiva is like the consort of Kali or something.
No, Kali's the consort of Shiva.
Yeah, they're lying about what it is though, which I find fascinating.
It's weird seeing a bunch of European white people do dances and satanic rituals to Hindu demons and shit. It's weird. You know what I'm saying? This is not demonic. We're just doing a mock execution, a mock sacrifice. But no, this is all scientific. Nothing to see here.
Yeah.
And they claim they found magic.
Well, yeah. I mean, in that movie Sinners, that Irish, he's an Irish guy because he's doing like that little dance.
Yeah.
And all the black people started doing it too, and it was like, you can tell though that we all had a common ancestor that did all this shit. I mean, it's pretty obvious. The closest DNA relation to the Aztecs, do you know who they were?
Indians.
They were from India.
We both like spicy food, bro.
Yeah, they go into the Aztec temple and they find curry everywhere. They're like, what? What is this?
Now, I'd be shocked if they found a box of Popeye's chicken. I'd really be shocked.
At one time they probably had all kinds of stuff, that like from way back, the ancient times. They probably had drive-throughs and everything else. Why all collapsed?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? But somebody said
here the cell phones.
They're finding pyramids, dude. They're finding pyramids with different entities, like different gods, bro. Like almost like somebody was collecting them. Almost like it wasn't like that uncommon to make contact with. It wasn't as hard as they said. It was to communicate with each other back in the day. You're like, everybody was all separated, but they're finding shit here in the U.S. They're saying the stuff they're finding here in the U.S. is older than anywhere else.
We were going to get Robert Kreider on. Well, I still will. I'll get him back on.
Changing, man. And like, hopefully the gatekeepers can either just get out of the way or they can just stop drinking blood and just die like regular.
Yeah, why are all the buildings built in Romanesque style?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People you can get on, and we need to talk to Kreider's one of them. I'm going to get him on, and he can tell you his theories that the Persians and the Egyptians, they were all here.
I think so too.
Natives. Yeah, they became the natives, and then there was a wave of Polynesians that came through.
J.D. Kincaid.
So who is that? Is that somebody?
The guy with the he went in the.
Yeah, he found 100 miles.
Oh yeah.
Come on now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a really good story, bro. He disappeared.
Yeah.
Him and his homie, dude.
Yeah, you're right.
You ever see those old statues?
Yeah, nobody else was ever able to find the entrances again. But he went
the army sealed it up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. His name. He haloed into the top of Superstitions Mountain. He's a treasure hunter.
Yeah.
We found I forgot. I don't want to lie, but it was a massive door because I don't remember exactly how big the door was. But he said it was made out of silver. And you know how back in the day, like the door handles had like this thing where you could stick 2 fingers. It was kind of shaped like an F. but it was just massive, like meant for somebody who had huge fingers. But they found temp all
Well,
kinds
look
of
at the Gordian knot. Alexander
Yeah, man.
this knot is made for giants.
Yeah.
It's
all the
tied
temp-
by
like the Victorian era buildings, bro. Why are the doors so big? They say because why?
You know that
Because it's from a different age. A time before us when everybody was giant. Everybody. That's why I argued with that guy and I said the Kali Yuga. And he says, well, we were going to be small. We are small. We're diminutive now, and we only live 100 years. Our lifespan's been cut down.
So I'll tell it probably next Monday or Monday after. It's about Jesus and stuff. I've been wanting to get this out there.
Mhm.
But it ties in with something that I saw there is going to tie in with something else that's just going to blow your mind. And I was like,
let me know.
But yeah,
tonight I got to run. I got to do my job, man. So I'm sorry, guys. I wish I could hang out. If I didn't have the job, we could just do this all the time, every day, all day. As I talk about this, I could do this all day, all night. Just come. We could bring thousands of people and just because some of these people, they get guest after guest after guest. They can book them and they do this and they do that, and then they could just go on all the time, whatever. They don't have a job. This is what they do. I have to run a business.
Just hire somebody else to run it for you, bro, and you can just do that shit.
Yeah, I wish it'd be nice.
We'll help you, bro. We'll help you. Just tell us how much
would be.
And we'll try to match it.
Scorpion's like,
you can hire a manager, bro, and to do this.
You should start like Texas Ghostbusters.
So we would go around and zap ghosts with
That'd be awesome.
with rock salt. Yeah. All right, guys. I love you guys. Thank you for coming on. I like the diversity too. It is, even though I'm a horrible person that's racist. It's getting harder and harder to be racist these days, man. It's hard.
No, it's just people's skin keeps getting thinner and thinner, bro.
Yeah.
Proud. They're like a badge of honor.
There's some real jealous, as we say in Spanish, celoso.
All the hate, bro. Yep.
There's haters, man. They get
When
hate.
you're just yourself and you're awesome, people just can't stand it. You're just vibrating at a different frequency, bro. They can sense it, and they just don't like you, bro. Like your light is too bright for them, and they don't like that shit. Yeah, like all the little narcissistic people, dude. Like, just don't even give them the time of the day, and they hate it even more. So,
yeah.
And remember,
you guys, go ahead.
Yeah, cover up your calf muscles, man. Them dudes are probably some like weirdo perverts or something.
Yeah, well, my wife's like, you should take a picture of your legs. I'm like, why? Because they give them a
start an
thrill.
OnlyFans for your calf, and then you can pay the manager to run your security business.
I can maybe lift my legs up.
Call it OnlyFans, bro.
Them calves sure would look good. Fry them calves up and put them in a stew.
Now they're going to grab the lotion.
Yeah.
There it is.
No, it's sexy.
Some people call it the Kaiser blade. I call it the sling blade.
Got them good looking legs with some taters and
Muscle for sale in there.
Bro.
Okay, guys. We're out of here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being the best part of what makes PRT PRT. Thank you, Amy, Chato, King Groove, Scorpion, everybody that's on here. Andres, I didn't even get to say hi to you. Andres, what's going on, man?
Everything's great with me. I've been good. I just been mostly quiet. Should have spoke up earlier though.
Yeah, you should have said something. You should have said, hey.
Yeah,
I'm here.
I did not want to interrupt like Amy and everybody else. Everything just happened. So that's
Oh yeah, when the show's this entertaining, it's hard to jump in there when you
it is.
You want to hear everything that's being said.
I'm probably just gonna break rhythm with something else, like a different subject, but I know that's what PRT is about.
Well, you know what? We'll be back on Monday. What do you guys think about we move this to a different day? Because Mondays are like, we talk about a lot of cool stuff, and you only get about 400, maybe 500 people on a Monday.
Yeah, but Mondays suck, bro. And this is cool. It's like a cool thing to do.
It's like Mondays suck.
Yeah.
Mondays do suck. I get slaughtered on Mondays, dude. Like it is when everybody complains about the weekend. Your guard was they were just there and I have to pay my bill.
Everybody's in a bad mood, bro.
Yeah, no kidding.
They got to hear it on Monday.
I think that's the reason they keep it on Mondays is because this is the way the show goes. it kind of alleviates everything that's going on before you came onto the
I'm gonna do a Marty Scorpion. Your opinion is duly noted, but I'm in charge. We're keeping it on Monday. That's Marty. I'm gonna miss Marty with that. That's you have an idea? That's a great idea. I'm glad I thought of it. I'm gonna tell the client right now what you said and say it. I did it.
Yeah.
Or you could end your episodes. You could let people on with questions. You can shrink the time.
Like ask more questions. Yeah, generously.
Why come
you gotta ask a
Josh
question?
gotta have a big house? Why come Josh gotta have a nice thing?
Questioning me, boy. Why you questioning me? Son, don't ask no questions.
Just get it back around the second time. Get it around back.
Yo, they're like, get that collection plate on the other side over there.
Hey, Wolf.
Collection plate.
Let the Holy Spirit move you to give your money.
Give that
Unfortunately,
money sleep.
a lot of black churches are really like that, for real.
They'll tell them to lock the doors.
Oh, I know. I went to a Baptist church with one of my friends, man.
But dude, they do get down though, man. When I was a kid, I went to the Black Baptist church once a month, and dude, the singing and dancing was incredible.
Yeah,
it was freaking awesome.
The food too, bro. They feed you.
They feed you afterwards. Yeah,
man.
We had fellowship at our church once a month. They had one every Sunday, man. Every Sunday, dude. And I was just like, dude, and I could eat some
bread at the end. The bread at the end of church, bro. There's always a spread.
Oh, Catholic church don't ever feed you. They're chinchy, man. They give you a cracker.
Yes,
here you go. Here's some grape juice and a cracker. Goodbye. Go on. Like, dude, where's the tamales at, man? You got all these women up there.
They did that at the Lotus Wolf when in Metropolis, man. They did that at the Lotus Metropolis. You go in there and you get bacon and eggs and sausage and eggs and breakfast tacos.
That's one church, man. I've been to a bunch of them. They didn't do that. Mentiroso, don't be lying. Oh, yeah, they feed you. Yeah,
I said that's why I mentioned that one church, because I said you said Catholic church, I said that one does.
Black folks ain't greedy with the food. They bring it out. The Mexicans would be like, I give you one tamale. You donate $10. I give you one tamale. You're like, dude, nah, man.
Where I was,
they really did something like that over at San Jose, because I went there one time for a match, and afterwards went to breakfast. And that's what they gave you, one breakfast taco and some orange juice.
That's what I'm talking about. They give you some orange juice, and you're supposed to be thankful.
Yeah, the church I go to on Monday nights, they serve a big spread. That's where I ate those 5 burgers tonight. So
there you go.
I was wondering. I was like, where were you at? So you were over there munching down on burgers, dude.
Yeah, 5 burger patties. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
What about the other people? People like the homeless people.
Dude, and they had so much to give away. They send it home with people. Like the cup is overflowing, man. Hallelujah.
It sure is easy to praise Jesus on a full stomach, isn't it?
Amen, brother. Amen. God is great. God is great.
Yeah. Because if you're on an empty stomach, you're wanting mass to end quickly so you can get to the food.
For real.
Yeah, dude. When I was a kid, dude, I'm not gonna lie, man. Like when we had that third Sunday of we always had the thing on third Sunday, and then the last Sunday of the month, we would go to the Black Baptist church, and we were the only white people there. Well, my mom was Hispanic, but we were the only white people. My dad went there, and the preachers there, they were always real cool. And then some of their people would go. It was like an exchange. Their people would go to our church or stuff, and they would be like, "Dude, y'all have food too." And I'm like, "Nah, don't let them fool you. It's once a month. Y'all do it every Sunday, dude." And I loved eating at the Black church because they would feed you. And those big mamas would be like, "You want some more cornbread?" They would, "Oh, you need to eat, baby. You're too skinny." And dude, I was like sickly when I was in Central Texas. And dude, I remember going to the church, and when we came to Central Texas, none of them had the fellowship, dude. Like we went to 3 different churches. I told my dad, he goes, "Which one of those churches do you like better?" And I was like, "Whichever one's gonna feed us, man, because none of them are giving us food." And my dad's like, "We don't need to eat food to go to church." I was like, "Dude, it helps." It definitely helps because I'm more into it if I know I'm going to get energized with food afterwards. That's just me, my opinion, but whatever. But I miss the Black church.
It's like a story. It's kind of short.
What is it?
It's going to be private, bro. So it's just for you, but it's weird, man. And Yeah, it tripped me out. But I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay. All right, guys, I really got to run, man. I'm getting message after message. We got a noise complaint. We got to go. And the person that's doing the patrol is like, has to go to their spot, which is at midnight. So I have to run, guys. I'd love to stay and chat. We had a great time. Thank you to Tony Romo for showing up here.
Thank you,
and
sir.
Amy for Scorpion, Chado, Andres, and of course, King Brew. Thank you guys for showing up and making this a good show. So
Yeah,
we got
I'll
to
see you
hear
in the
here. It
morning,
says
bro.
I wish you
Moose.
yeah.
Moose McGrew, 1,000 apiece. Well, buy me that UFO. No dogs allowed. All right, guys. I'll see you guys. Thank you
God
and good
bless.
night.
All right, good night and God bless.
Peace out.
Take care.